Jada, G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right? Uh-oh, Richard.
No cry?
I'm not crying.
It's that time again, kids. Welcome to Midnight's Edge After Dark. How'd you guys like the new Will Smith slap?
I like it.
That now?
Did you see that?
Yeah, I noticed it. That was good. I like that. We can't. I can't get enough. What I'm calling slapitude.
Did you not see it, Script Doctor?
I saw it. I didn't realize that was still a conversation now.
No, I thought it was timely considering Spider-Man came out on video today.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Although,
I want to herald the return of the great Script Doctor. I have missed him so much the last 2 weeks. I'm like every day. I'm like, is he gonna be there on Tuesday or Thursday?
Oh, I've been pretty sick, so I'm happy that I actually have a voice back again. That's quite nice.
Yeah. We are glad to have you back, Script Doctor, and also with us today is Mexican Iron Man, who has his own tune. A Mexican, he's not a Mexican. Look out, here he comes with another big rant. Although Paulie stole it.
Okay, I'm gonna hire somebody to get rid of Paulie's face on that.
Yeah, you need to get a new version of that.
Yeah, I'm on that. I'm on that stat.
Just mix it with this. See, then you're good. That works. And welcome everybody, and hello from Wicket. Welcome to the show. And yes, right off the bat, we lost a comedy legend today. Gilbert Gottfried passed away at the age of 67. I don't know what else to say other than y'all know I liked him. He was one of the voices I'd pull out once in a great while. Really sad to see him go. I guess he's been sick for the last couple of years, according to some reports. But 67 is way too young. Great comedian. Culture. Did you ever get a chance to meet him? I thought you had talked about him before. Or Script Doctor. I mean, Jesus Christ. I was thinking of Culture showing up. That's why. Sorry, Script Doctor. Have you ever met him before? I can't remember. I know you talked about him before.
I've seen him in passing, but I never got to have a proper meet with him. Whenever he did stand up, which was like kind of infrequent, but every once in a while he'd do a club, and I'd be in the area and I'd go see him, but I'd never have a chance to catch him after the show.
Right. Of course, my introduction to him had to be this right here, Sidney Bernstein in Beverly Hills Cop 2. It got to be the first time I remember seeing him. Mike, you ever a big fan of Gilbert?
I mean, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, he's hilarious. I actually enjoyed him. I did like Script Doctor. I have seen him live, and I infinitely enjoyed him more live than I ever did on any of his movie appearances.
Oh, he's really funny live.
I mean, he to me, I never. Okay, so like in terms of like his work, in movies and stuff like that, absolutely a great talent. But I never found him like super hilarious. But seeing him live was next level. I mean, it was just absolute. I was in stitches the entire time from beginning to end. Like I literally walked out like slumped over because I was laughing so hard.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I mean, it was really funny. It's kind of weird because like just the other day I was watching, I just happened to, when I kind of editing in the background, just stuff will flow and play in the background, or I'll click on something and play it. And I happened to see his funniest moments from The Apprentice pop up just randomly. And I watched it just the other day, so that was kind of weird. But yeah, he will be missed. He was a great comedian, great voiceover artist, great actor. Got shat on a lot by a lot of people.
We had a very short stint on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, he was the Affleck duck for a while.
Yep.
So he will be missed. But other than that, the big news was the trial, which we're not going to get too deep into at all. I mean, we may talk about it in passing, but I don't really plan on getting into it per se. Ironheart got a director, or
2 of them.
yeah, and Ryan Coogler's involved. Yay!
That doesn't sound very enthusiastic.
I kind of went off on this earlier on Culture Casino's channel. Speaking of, about how I just don't give a fuck. I'm like, to me, comic book characters are like James Bond. They don't get old, or they don't have to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They technically don't have to die. They don't have to technically be replaced. You can just continue to retell the stories or recast them. I mean, even Warner Brothers figured that much out about Batman, despite constantly giving us shows with Batman with about Batman without him. They still know that he's their golden goose, right? They're not gonna fuck that up too bad.
They're kind of. I mean, the word is around some of the people that are still left at Warner Brothers that they are pretty disappointed that the Batman didn't break $1 billion.
Oh, I'm sure they are. But at the same time, my point is they've recast the part how many times over?
More times in the last 10 years than prior to any other Batman iteration.
Exactly. I don't need an Ironheart. Okay, I can continue to watch Captain America. To me, Marvel is Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, the Hulk, shit like that. I don't need these secondary characters. I don't need the replacements. You guys know my feeling on this already with redundant characters, but like, to me, it just, outside of the whole legal reason why they're doing some of this shit, I just don't give a fuck, and I hope all of it falls flat on its fucking face. I really do. I have no love for any of these characters, no attachment. I think redundant characters are dumb. Unless you're bringing something really new to the table, I just don't see the point.
But Tom, I have a question. How will you understand diverse? Oh, I gotta say it without laughing. How will you understand diverse points of views if you don't see diverse characters? No.
I hit the wrong button. I meant to hit this one way up here. That's why.
You serious?
Yeah, are you serious?
No.
You know, I watch old movies a lot, and I see a lot of diversity. I just don't get it. I don't.
Tom, maybe we need. What did you say earlier on culture? We need a new superhero. How did you describe him? He's bald. Wait. How did you say you need?
I'm so happy we finally have a superhero who's in his 40s, bald, fat, shit like that. Because I could never, associate with any of these other superheroes before. Never.
Are you talking about Captain Underpants?
Maybe, I guess. I don't know. Is that describe Captain Underpants?
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, I have no idea who that
Came
is.
Came out like 20, 30 years ago.
I kind of know what it is. Didn't they do a movie of it like 2 years ago?
They did an animated movie of it.
Yeah.
The creator was perusing Chris Farley to play the role before he passed away.
Yeah. No. And that's just it. I don't have that incessant need to see a balding white guy represented on screen. I'd rather watch people like Thor, Eddie Murphy, people who don't look anything like me but entertain me. That is not why I want to see a movie. I don't want to see a movie to remind me how shitty my life is.
So are you gonna go see Riri when Riri comes out in the Iron?
No, and I think it's just gonna be a series, but still, no. Alopecia. Hey, Thundercats ho! It's been a long time. How you been? Ain't seen you grace our chats in a while.
Captain Alopecia, yeah.
Captain Alopecia.
What would be his superpowers? Like
his ability to make anyone bald
To
instantly.
pay the bills. Yeah, I don't get. I don't know. I mean, what else can I do? Drive people to work? into school. I mean,
I think that's Captain Uber.
well, just what do white men my age do besides being family men?
You try to talk to Jose the gardener when he comes to do the gardening.
So I think I'm cool because I have a Mexican friend. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. You definitely have to drive kids, and you definitely have to pay bill. Oh, you have to show up for like when you get hauled back into like family court for more alimony
Jesus.
or more
I was gonna
child
say
support.
meetings, but Jesus, like at school, but no, you're going to the full extent.
Oh, I'm going full throttle. I'm going full throttle American white guy misery. Yeah, like you have to show up for
Get fired at like 40 something, so I can't find a new job other than at McDonald's. Yeah.
Exactly. So learning how to sell shoes.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not all gone yet. I got some of it there on the side. Well, there's some left. I got like the Patrick Stewart patch yet. Like season 1 and 2 before he just got rid of it all.
Oh, okay. So like the Halo thing that's going around.
Yeah.
For
looking like spending your life looking like a pencil with the eraser bit off. Exactly.
For being a channel that covers entertainment, I'm not sensing from the three of us an overwhelming amount of enthusiasm for this potential new show.
I do like bowling, Grand Admiral Adam. That is true.
Yeah, I like bowling too.
White men tend to like bowling. Speaking of bowling, I didn't even know it until tonight that Nick is talking about The Big Lebowski on his Toxic Tuesday. That is like one of my favorite movies.
That's a good movie.
John Milius is the inspiration for John Goodman's character. Did you guys know that?
No.
Yeah.
No. That is a damn fine movie, though.
I guess he's
the Coen brothers actually broke up recently. They don't make movies together.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, no, they just kind of ran out of stuff to do.
Really? Well, they need to do Raising Arizona too.
You mean Raised Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona Raised, yes. Nikki D is in the house. Thank you so much for the $10 donation. It says, bit off topic, but Tom Holland casting for Uncharted's Nathan Drake was a mistake. He's too young. If they wanted a young explorer type character, maybe he could have played live action Johnny Quest. That's a good.
He's technically a little too old for Johnny Quest.
I was gonna say he's actually too old for Johnny Quest. But if they actually own the rights to that character, no, I don't disagree with you. It probably should have been what's his face, the other guy in the movie. Marky Mark Wahlberg probably playing the main role, and then him just playing like his assistant or something like that. But
well, if you wanted to do a good Johnny Quest film, I would say Bryan Cranston as Benton Quest and Tom Cruise as Rex Bannon.
I've never been a big Johnny Quest fan. It's all right.
It's only like a 1-season cartoon series.
I know. See, that's the thing. It was one of those cartoons where it was like on in between other stuff I liked, so it was like got forced to watch it most of the time. Or like when we go to my cousins, they'd be like, "Let's watch Johnny Quest." I'm like, I fucking hate Johnny Quest. Let's watch He-Man. So
I never liked Johnny Quest. Just like I never liked. Oh crap! What was that one you were talking about earlier? Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, I've never been a Harry Potter fan, but I understand why people like it. But Script, you sent us a couple of stories here. What's going on with this? Did anybody watch this ambulance movie?
No, and that's actually a big problem because it's a Michael Bay Helmer.
Yeah.
It's got Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and it's all the sort of tropes of a Michael Bay film, but nobody went to see it over the weekend.
Well, I think people are kind of played out on Michael Bay. I mean, they kind of know the tropes by now. He's become a meme, right? I mean, he finally come to the conclusion, yeah, maybe I should have listened to Spielberg and quit making all those stupid Transformer movies.
Well, I mean, he hasn't really stretched himself, but like this movie actually would be the first attempt of him actually stretching himself because it's a relatively modest budget compared to what he ever did before. Ambulance was only $40 million production.
Now I heard though it's not very good.
No, it's not.
So there's that aspect of it, but beyond that, no. I mean, I think Script, at least this is my point of view on it, is I think that the audience has figured out who Michael Bay is. They know what they're going to get. Because if you look at his filmography outside of that, what was it, Pain and Gain, that seemed to be the only one that kind of stood out to me where people would go like, oh, no, that's not your typical Michael Bay film. But outside of that, it's all been Transformers and the same old shit. So I think the audience just got wise to him. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
I think his filmmaking always has the same style over and over and over again, and with the, I think he's, how do I say this? He might be able to take his film style on a brand or a franchise or with some headline talent, but when he's like something like this that's coming out where it's just, whatever is a shaky, weird, weird ass, shaky cam storytelling, whatever, clippity clip in his editing,
What's the fast cuts? Yeah.
Yeah, this fast cuts. It really, that style, it gets exhausting in a movie. It makes it, in my opinion, it makes storytelling impossible. And it becomes really about, like, it's almost like, it reminds me of like when Max was younger, my kid, and you give him a bunch of toys, and if you give him too many toys too fast, he burns out of all the toys and he doesn't want to play with any of them. Versus you give him like one a week or one every 2 weeks, and then he likes playing with them all over a period of time. The thing with Michael Bay, his movie style is it's so much crap coming at you so fast that it's like he's trying to wrap you up in the moment, type of thing. And
No, and I actually liked him quite a bit when he first came out, and I've told this story, and it's fucking true. I wasn't just kidding. When I walked out of Bad Boys, I said Michael Bay is going places. I said this guy is like the newest, greatest new director, because this was after The Rock, that, and stuff like that. So it was like, to me, like, after seeing Bad Boys, I'd never seen a movie cut like that before. Never seen a movie shot like that before. I mean, sure, The Rock had a lot of those prototypes, but to me, like, when we get to the Bad Boys one, to me was just like, holy shit, this is something new and different. And Rock came out after Bad Boys, right? It was he did Bad Boys first, then Rock. Okay, so yeah, so I saw the Bad Boys and I saw the Rock, and I'm just like, yeah, this, because the Rock was even bigger for him. And then he did Armageddon, I think the year after that, if I'm not mistaken. Did he do one in between there? Because Armageddon was 98 or 7. Was that 97?
Something around like that, yeah.
Because it was 95 would have been Bad Boys, 96, yep, because 96 was The Rock, now that I think about it. And I believe 97 would have been Armageddon. So he had those 3 in a row that were big, boom, 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 boom. So, like, in that respect, I was like, oh, man, he's going to make it. And as far as Pearl Harbor, I didn't hate Pearl Harbor when it came out. I understood why people didn't like it, but I'm like, okay, he just took his Armageddon formula and he mixed it with Pearl Harbor. Because there's some of that stuff in there, like the when they do like the attack and stuff on Pearl Harbor, a lot of that stuff's amazing. Because at that time we'd never seen footage like that before, and I think they did a really good job of making sure it was, that part of it was accurate. Now the rest of it, not so much. Like all the characters, like I got sick and tired of the Titanic type story with Ben Affleck and all them after a while. But like the actual historical parts, I thought they got pretty cool with like the actual battle and stuff like that. But I don't know. What do you guys think of Pearl Harbor when it came out? I know that was one of the first ones that people kind of turned on him.
Well, one of the things that you have to kind of remember is that there was this period in the late 90s where a lot of really, really good cinematographers decided to become directors. And they gave us some great visual, stunning stuff, but they couldn't elicit any proper performances out of their actors. But it didn't matter because it was in the heyday of special effects set pieces and whatnot. And Michael Bay was kind of at the forefront of that. It was all about the set pieces, the action. The script wasn't really refined enough. It was about the cinematography. Like Michael Bay is one of the pioneers of the rotating the camera around the 2 main heroes ad nauseum shot, which is used all the time by hacks nowadays. And I think it's kind of true is that not just here's the other part too. Like the industry is kind of split in some things when it comes to the prestige of people. I'll just put it to this way. Like, so Bruce Willis, like when you take a look at his IMDb, he had like 10 movies back to back. And you're like wondering why the heck is that happening? And that's just because and the movies are not big studio films. They're actually really small films. And the reason because is that there is a section of Hollywood that is still living 20 years in the past. They think Bruce Willis is actually still a big name star and whatnot. And unfortunately, the rest of Hollywood and by and large the rest of the world knows that's not the case anymore. Now, unfortunately, Bruce Willis has this an issue with a health issue that has caused him to retire. And he looks like he was being a little exploited, but I can't verify that. But the same thing also happens to go with, as we saw earlier, like, Will Smith. Will Smith is not as big as people think he is. There's a good sizable portion in Hollywood that still thinks he's big and bankable, but
he's not the star he was 15 years ago. 10
exactly.
years ago.
That's the thing. He's not the star he was 15 years ago. The only way he's going to get financing for a movie prior to his incident is basically through the Hollywood that's still 15, 20 years in the past, which is the same type of people that give Michael Bay movies, because again, he doesn't bring the wow factor anymore to it, because a lot of other producers, especially younger ones that have come up and actually really hit hard with their low budget films, especially like over at A24 or at Blumhouse, they all know that Michael Bay is half of what he's supposed to be as a director. And the same things are happening right now with Zack Snyder, because he has these Netflix deals and he's doing basically a remake of Battle Beyond the Stars, which is just a remake of Magnificent Seven, which is just a remake of Seven Samurai, which I think is also a retelling of a novel from 20 years prior.
Which is a very similar story.
Rebel Moon. He's doing this, and it's all for set piece stuff right now, but there's already talks happening from some of the people that are in some pretty decent positions throughout the studio world saying, yeah, he's Zack Snyder's pretty hot right now, but he is definitely following the Michael Bay pattern.
You're not wrong.
And if he doesn't, do something about what he can provide as a director to a film, he's gonna, be able to make some money for the next 5-6 years, which is good, and there's gonna be plenty of studios exploiting that, especially Netflix. But he's not gonna have that type of legacy that they really want, because everybody really wants, when they find that hit director, kind of like a Spielberg, kind of like a Scorsese, kind of like, oh crap, I'm just forgetting his name, but he did the first Mission Impossible film. Why is it escaping me?
Director?
Yeah, the director.
It was damn it, now you just made me forget.
Yeah. But they had a good decade. They had like a solid decade of like, they could always bring De Palma. Brian De Palma. They had a solid decade in their career. Like, Spielberg, Scorsese, and Coppola are basically in their third or fourth decade of being like, well, I would say they had maybe 25 solid years where their name always guaranteed a positive, like a financial success.
Directors who are about as famous as an actor, yes. They were arguably our generation's Hitchcock or Ford or whoever.
Yeah,
like
Spielberg.
I'm going to see.
Yeah, like Spielberg's reputation did falter when he did War of the Worlds, and Tom Cruise's name was bigger on the masthead than his. That's when that was the turning point.
You're not wrong for many reasons.
But if you take a look at the 25 years up until that point of Spielberg's career, he was a sure thing. And even today, because of his influence, he's still a sure thing with a lot of other studios. But you take a look at the last few movies he made, they don't compare, not just in quality, but also in audience
I don't think
reception.
he's technically had a hit since Lincoln, but go ahead, Mike.
Right. I think what I find fascinating of what Script is talking about is something that I felt for a long time, which is that a great director is able to tell a great story that hopefully has a great script and hopefully has the right resources. And that director is able to get into that story, understand what is the story to be told, and then that expresses it out, and hopefully, if it's done well, has universal appeal in universal stories, hero arcs, whatever. The problem that we have is a lot of these directors have a style, and after a while, we get tired of that style because we get sick of seeing that style because it's lame and it's repetitive, and they take what otherwise might be good stories, or, and often the case, good franchises, and fucking them all up. Especially when a lot of these director types decide that they want to become great writers. When one thing I've learned from getting to know Script, the discipline of writing is an entirely unique beast in and of itself in the entertainment industry. It is an incredible, unique skill set that requires commitment, talent, education, experience, discipline, practice, learning, mentorship, being a mentor, I mean, I've learned so much from script in the last 2 years of script, and I mean, I'm not trying to like blow your head up too much, but I have learned a lot from you. Um, and what when you have the combination of these directors that think that their style is the celebrity and that is the thing, and then some of them try to decide that they want to become the writer and tell things in jacked up ways, well, then we get what we get. And you know what? Films like probably like we just saw this weekend are gonna flop because we're not interested.
Well, you
Why?
actually do have that, Mike, and I'm sure script can say a thing or two about it too, as far as like, guys like Tom Cruise and stuff have their own writers come in, and arguably that was one of the things wrong with, say, like The Mummy, was that Kurtzman in the studio allowed too many people to come in and put their 2 cents in, and no resistance was put into where it became a hodgepodge mess. But script, yeah, I'm sure that in Hollywood there are these big actors who have these certain guys who come in and punch up scripts for them and work on their dialogue and stuff like that, right?
Well, what usually ends up happening is that an actor, once he gets a certain level of, or she gets a certain level of influence to assure
Right.
financing for the film, they will end up saying something like, "Well, I want to see how good the script is and then see if it's right for me. And if it's good enough, what they'll say is, well, it's not quite there, but I want to bring in my writer to come in and punch up my character's role." And that usually requires kind of like another rewrite, and it's great for the actor, it's great for the writer, and depending on the production and how good the writer is, it could be great overall, but it is an additional expense. And you get a lot of that because, again, actors they're not very intelligent on the overall, because they're especially if their primary skill is only acting, like if they don't ever peruse directing or any other hobbies, like for instance Nathan Fillion, um, can build cool props and gadgets and things of that nature. Like he has other skills aside from acting, which is probably what allows him to have that charming factor, because he's able to maintain humility about himself, and why he has such a strong fan base. Um, for our friends of the show, like Tom Conkle, he's also a director, he's also a writer, he's also an actor, and he does voices and accents, so he's really versatile. Even Jerry Tunnicliffe, he's a director and a makeup artist, and many other things, and a writer as well. Like he's got this versatile set of skills, which gives him
Director, yeah.
a great advantage over a lot of other people that he would be up against, because that is kind of like one of the things. Like even for myself as a writer, I've done some acting, but I also do a lot of editing, and I've built props, and I've worked on storyboards and things of that nature, because I want to make sure that when I am writing, I have more than just a writer's perspective on whatever it is I'm doing, and that usually comes in play. But for an actor, they only have the perspective of what's their role and how is this going to make them look throughout the rest of the industry and throughout their audience. And if their entire goal is this, I'm going to make sure that I look the best and I shine the best, I need to find a writer that can do that. Or I need to find a director that's going to listen to my suggestions to make sure that I get that outcome that I need in order to better my career. And when you have those types of influences, yeah, it's really hard to reconcile, an actor like, say, for instance, Tom Cruise, who really likes the script, where he's like, I want to rewrite the character so that it does this, and that's the
Right.
only way it's going to get financing, and from that financing, you get, they make the movie, and then hopefully, and then because it's got Tom Cruise, it's going to definitely get a distribution deal, and that's going to help further everybody else who worked on that film's career as a result. And yet they have to compromise probably something integral to the story that got the interest in the first place. And that's just a hypothetical, but that usually ends up being the case for a lot of stuff. And one of the actors who doesn't actually do that too much, because he doesn't really care for some strange reason, is Nicolas Cage. Like he'll have a suggestion here and there for a performance, but I've heard stories that you can say, yeah, I love that suggestion. How can we make it work for this other thing down that happens down in the series, down this in the movie? And he'll actually stop and consider that and think, well, maybe that might not be the best idea for this thing, but it's a good idea. I'm going to keep it for something else later. And that's kind of like how he operates. And he's always fun and passionate about his films, even though he's um, kind of mocked actor overall in like a lot of the critic communities, because he
Yeah.
goes all in all the time. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like and that's just circling back to like The Rock again. Like that was one of the movies that kind of, that and Con Air kind of showcased Nicolas Cage was beyond just doing comedy films.
Maybe Con Air was the one he did in between there. I can't remember now, but yeah.
Something around that, yeah.
Yeah, Kit Kat sent in a 10-pound super chat. Thank you so much. Says, got my rose-colored Midnight's Edge 1-year badge, but YouTube says 1-year MEAD badges will be turquoise. Same as 1 month badge. Could be a typo. Could a typo been made of specifying colors? Shouldn't MEAD be rose-colored too? That's probably my doing, Kit Kat. I just went in and I did not really understand too much of what I was setting up when I set it up. So there's probably not a much uniformity when it comes to the main channel and this channel when it comes to those colors. If it says the wrong color, that means I messed it up. As far as the main channel, Andre set that up, so I have no idea what he did on his end.
Sounds like a summer project for Mexican Iron Man.
This sounds like a summer project for Culture and Mexican Iron Man, because Culture is the one that helped us make all the badges. And then Mexican Iron Man understands this stuff much better than I do. But chances are it's my fault. I'm going to take the blame. But I'll try and look into that.
I will do it this summer. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
We'll get it. We'll get it worked out.
Thank you.
We need to get some more colors anyway. I think that was part of the problem is I ran into not enough colors.
The other thing that YouTube's been doing, which is really weird the last 2 or 3 weeks, is that when the member chats come up, the number of months that someone's been a member is wrong. And
yeah, there's something wrong there.
There's something really going wrong. So everybody don't flip out. And I don't know what's going on, but the number of months counter in the YouTube memberships is wrong. And I know it's wrong because I've been having it myself. So
yeah. Hamdinger says, we don't need no stinking badges.
Yes, we do. We need as many as we can get.
Then we have speaking of members, we got and this is exactly what Mike was talking about. Nicholas Horton has been a member for 9 months at the maximum effort puppy level, but it says here 6 months in parentheses, which is wrong. And they point out that Johnny Quest also had a sequel series during the late 90s. I remember that. The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, an older Johnny, Haji, and Race's daughter, Jessie. Yep. Do you remember that one script at all?
Yeah, it dealt a lot with the virtual reality world of the time. Not very good. It kept on going into like VR world.
And then we got Christian Delorme, who's now a member here. Let's see here at the maximum effort puppy level. So we'll get a video for that. Let's do the maximum effort puppy. Let's see here. Where is he? There he is. All right. There's a maximum effort puppy for Christian. And speaking of, we also got some milestones here while we're at it. We have Marks47, who's celebrating a year with us here. Thank you so much. And Wild Rose is celebrating 6 months at the minimum effort puppy level, both of them. Thank you so very much for that. We appreciate that. And then we had a couple super chats here. We got one from Dr. Coffin Nails who says, my favorite Gilbert Gottfried joke. If masturbation were a crime, I'd be on death row. There you go. Yes, he was a funny man. And then we got Peter Smigelski, who also just joined the minimum effort puppy level. That's Mikey's favorite video. There you go. Now that's weird because it'll show new members on this side, but it won't show milestones or member chats.
Wait a minute, you're able to bring them up?
I can bring just new members up.
Holy shit, I didn't even know that.
If you scroll up, like there should be a buttload of all the milestones should be right there next to that. They're not. Yeah, not on the StreamYard side. ActionCom says director John Frankenheimer, the Manchurian Candidate Ronin, made go of it right up to the day he died. He's had misfires, Island of Dr. Moreau. Mm-hmm. But why do you think he was able to make it as far as he did? Now, Island of Dr. Moreau, didn't he pick that up after that was already a fucking disaster?
I think he got involved later into the game.
I was going to say, that's my recollection from that.
But one of the things with John Frankenheimer is that I don't recall, like you watch a bunch of his films and it's hard to tell that's by the same guy. I mean, he has a very distinct.
Are you saying he's like the Doobie Brothers of directors?
That's interesting. Maybe. Yeah, that could probably.
Did you ever listen to the Doobie Brothers? No two of their songs sound alike and they all sound like they're from different bands.
Exactly. Yeah. Depends on who's singing and
kind
who
of like
wrote
Toto.
It.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like this can't be the same band. But no, I think that's a good point, script. And I think that's another reason why there's a couple other directors that are really good at, I wouldn't call them necessarily chameleons, but they're good at jumping in and out of genres without really putting a stamp on it. Does that make sense? Coppola got good at doing that for a while. But then I don't know. I haven't seen his last ones, but there's a couple other ones that were really good at that. Like, you had a lot of the 80s directors, like Bonham and who's the guy that directed Tremors? I'm trying to think. Was that the same guy who did?
It was Ron Underwood, I think. Yeah.
Okay, Ron Underwood. That was another one. There's a couple of guys in the 80s that they were really good at just jumping in and out of genres, and you didn't know who the director was all the time. But
well, yeah, because so Underwood, he jumped between drama, comedy,
and Bonham
action.
is another one I'm thinking of too. Did War Games and Short Circuit.
Yep. I mean, yeah, Ron Underwood, he's still working pretty steadily. He does a lot of TV now. But
I think you made the best point there, though. Script is that he was able to not like
be a director typecast sort of thing.
Yeah, you can tell when you're watching a Scorsese film, for instance.
Oh yeah, he has except for Hugo. Hugo is very unlike a Scorsese.
We got to see that. I got to see that yet. So
it is a Scorsese film, but it's also not, because it deals with a very different type of genre that's quite quite good. It's I recommend checking it out because it's a surprisingly entertaining family film from Martin Scorsese. And how often can you say that?
A lot of action directors were able to do that too. But thank you for that. That's a good question. Edgy number 1 says, been reading Sun Tzu's Outer War, especially with regard to subduing an enemy without firing a shot. After seeing what's happened to Western USA culture in general lately, it has been enlightening. Yeah. I can see what you're getting at there.
Yep, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, required reading in one of my majors in college, first book.
Yeah. Boba Fett loved Hugo. I got to get that yet. I want to get the 3D version. I have not got that one.
I got the free copy with I think an Apple product that I purchased years ago. It was cool. It was great.
But speaking of Nicolas Cage, you sent me a Nicolas Cage story here.
Yeah, he's getting back into his home genre.
Let's see here what we got. Nicolas Cage is getting back to comedy because he's a funny guy.
I think you should do the whole article in that voice.
Cage's co-stars Pedro Pascal and Lily Sheen, as well as the film's co-writers and director, also talk about the legendary actor brought to a film about a version of himself. Me. For my latest role, I play myself, sort of. In the multi-genre unbearable weight of massive talent. An experience, I say, that brought me back to comedy. I was talking to a Hollywood Reporter in New York. A special screening by Lionsgate and Saturn Film. And BURR! Production. See, it's got a big exclamation. So I gotta go, BURR! Productions. Film at Regal, Essex, Crossing, and RPX on Sunday night. I was arrested across the street from there once. The star credited co-star writers, that would be me. That's the star. Nicolas Cage, Kevin Eaton, and Tom Gormican, who also directs the film, for allowing me to play in the genre that eluded me for years because I just didn't get it. I didn't understand it. Somewhere along the way, Hollywood seems to have forgotten that I could do comedy. I had done Raising Arizona. I'd done Honeymoon in Vegas, Moonstruck. I mean, Peggy Sue Got Married. I mean, it goes on and on. Did anybody see The Wicker Man? That was hilarious.
I did not see that.
But they forgot. So did you, Mike. With this, Tom invited me back into comedy, and it was a very welcome experience for me because it's like it's been a long time.
Don't cry. Hold it together. Nope.
And I got to play myself. Struggling to get new roles, which isn't true. Have you seen the movies I've done lately? I have no problem getting roles.
Yeah, you've done a shitload of movies lately.
Movies and pussy, not a problem for the Cage Meister.
I mean, he has a couple of kids and been with the same woman for quite a while, too.
Told you! Proof is in the pudding, or in this case, the children that I produced. Man. The script starts off as like an indie character piece, and slowly, when Pedro Pascal's character comes in, it changes into a buddy comedy, and we really had a great time trying to make that seamless. So it was all about grounding all the performances across the genres as much as we could. That's not me saying that. That was that other guy Anyway, this film looks good. This is one we've talked about a few times here. It's kind of like almost feels like a spiritual sequel to Being John Malkovich in a way.
Yep.
I read the script last year. It's quite funny. Yeah.
You read the script?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Ooh.
I was very happy to be one of the many people that was pushing and circulating this around as a really good script. I hope the script translates well on film, so it's a really funny film. Because it does make fun of Nicolas Cage, his career choices, and things of that nature. Oddly enough, a few years before this movie was written, a couple of guys, similar style of humor, wrote a script about trying to get Leonardo DiCaprio his Oscar. But as soon as that script hit the circulation world, DiCaprio won his Oscar, and so the script ended up having no relevant purpose anymore. So they got really boned by that because they were really happy for it. And then
this is why we need to get Killing Sean Bean done before somebody does.
And then another person was doing one on making fun of John Travolta, but John Travolta crushed that because he's like, I don't want to do that.
I'm not making fun of myself, okay? Yeah. Oh my God. It's not funny. Why actually would you do such a thing? I'm a serious actor.
Well, I didn't think they liked the way that they handled some of the subjects because he is. I mean, Travolta had no problem making fun of himself as long as it's something he agrees to make fun of. Like if you try to make fun of his hair, like he's gonna say no. Scientology, why you gotta fuck with my hair? Like if you start making fun of like his movies, like you talk about, Look Who's Talking series and the stuff he did in between Pulp Fiction and I
still think I should have won an Oscar for acting with the baby. You know how odd it is to act with a baby? They give you nothing. It's like I'm giving the baby everything I got. I'm emoting and I'm doing all this stuff, and the baby just drools.
Yeah, I mean, he is kind of playing like a beta man in the first one.
How am I supposed to react to that?
You're supposed to dance like in Pulp Fiction?
Okay.
No, that was a joke. I was completely kidding.
Well, we know he has no problem making fun of himself. Have you seen The Fanatic?
No.
The Fanatic is brilliant for all the wrong reasons.
It is fucking brilliant for all the wrong reasons. I fucking that movie is a train wreck, but you can't stop watching it. And I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now.
That's more than I saw it once, and I'm like, that's enough for me.
I know. I just it was one of those
that
things.
Kind of disappoints me.
Well, I saw it one time, and then like it was one of those things where I'm like, somebody I was talking to hadn't seen it, so I ended up watching it again. So I think I've only seen it twice, but and then I think I watched bits and pieces of it just to talk about it some other time. But like, it was a nutty fucking film, I tell you what.
Yeah, it is a nutty one. It's a weird. perspective that some celebrities believe that they are worried about when dealing with a very hardcore fan that crosses that line in from fandom to stalking. Yeah, it's there is a genuine concern. There are some people believe of all the details that happen in that film, but I'd say it skirts the line of what a crazy obsessed fan might do, but usually in those cases it gets far more violent.
Well, not just that, the whole thing is kind of fucked up. Brado Jackson, Jacko, I think he was saying the opposite.
No, I definitely was saying the opposite.
Yeah, I was going to say, because
he won't laugh at Scientology, but he will definitely laugh at his films.
Yeah, the Scientology don't play like that. See Isaac Hayes for reference. But yeah, that was kind of the main topics for today, outside of the whole Depp and Amber Turd trial.
Well, if you want to talk to, like, again, her future with Warner Brothers is pretty much in question, just like with Ezra's. No, to any of you Flash fans, Grant Gustin will not be recast in the Flash film. It's not going to happen.
He's not even going to be in the whole next season.
I think next season is his last season.
He's barely not only in the episodes now.
No, he's only going to be in like 15 of the episodes or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not. There's going to be episodes of the Flash without even the Flash in them.
Well, I mean, that's the caveat when it comes to Warner Brothers television shows, is that there is no hero. It's a team of people that make one hero.
Yeah.
Which is antithetical to hero, because remember all the people that Hercules needed to help him, save, do his 10 chores, 10 feats.
And that other guy.
And I'm not talking about Aeolus from the series.
And the
like,
short
that guy
dude
was not doing much of anything anyways.
I don't know. There was no guys I remembered. No, you're 100% right. And that's what drove me away from Arrow and Flash to begin with. It was like, wait a minute. This is supposed to be Arrow. This is supposed to be the Flash, not the Felicity show, not all these other fucking characters that are
not
coming
Team
in. Making,
Flash, not Team
Yeah,
Arrow.
It got real. And then, Arrow, it didn't help that it just got very soap opera.
Well, yeah, exactly. Green Arrow turned into like an unfunny version of instead of How I Met My Mother, How I Met My Green Arrow.
Well, worse than that, it felt like Falcon Crest or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I mean, well, the other part, here's the thing that hurts CW shows is that they get so excited when something hits that they end up steering the ship towards that as opposed to a more useful course. Like, for instance, they had Katie Cassidy was going to be the love interest for Oliver Queen as Dinah Lance, but for some reason they didn't call her Dinah. They called her Laurel, which is such an easier name to pronounce than Dinah. Jeez. And then because Emily Bett Records came in and wowed the cast and crew, and for some reason the audience with her little flustered character, they decided, no, we're going to make her the one that Green Arrow gets together with. And it's like, why? And then they invent a new character, and then they retroactively try to make him Jon Stewart, and they keep on bringing all these other characters to come in to be part of team members, and you're dealing with a character of Green Arrow who is an old school lefty, who's basically like government get out of my hair type of character, and they don't even once go that direction. And eventually it ended up having to the point where like the actor Stephen Mills said, I don't want to do this anymore. Let's end the show. And then he goes and does Heels, which I don't think is performing as well as they want to, because recently he just revealed, I think on a podcast somewhere, that if he had the opportunity to go back to playing Green Arrow, he would in a heartbeat, which is kind of telling, and you kind of feel sorry for him. But, I mean, that's the CW for you, and they're replacing Batwoman with Gotham Knights, and Gotham Knights is also going to be basically just the same as Batwoman, but more of them.
Well, somebody who may have a thing or two to say about this. Speaking of a Toxic Tuesday celebration, Mr. Nick Weiser, how you doing?
I'm good, Tom. Thank you for inviting me on. Just got home. How you doing? Script, Mike, nice to see you guys. Seems like I came in at a perfect part of the conversation.
Yeah, we're just shitting on the CW shows.
Oh, rightfully so. Oh man, dude.
It's a
But
little
here's the
low hanging
thing.
fruit, but yeah.
Oh, here's a sad part now, and this is gonna be. I'm not one to believe in guilty pleasure. I'll just say I'm unapologetic for what I like, but I actually enjoyed the first 2 seasons of The Flash. I was a big fan. I liked how they're actually like embracing comic booky elements, and there was a little drama parts that are a little bit much for my taste, but I still enjoyed it, especially when they're bringing like Earth 2, Gorilla Grodd. Like I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Well,
Then
here's a
season
question.
3 happened.
Here's a question for you, Nick. Were you
Talk to me.
disappointed that after the pilot they never reincorporated some of the detective angles of Barry Allen like they did in the pilot with like the Sherlock
Yes.
stuff? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, was I mad about that? Because I love seeing. I'm a big Barry Allen guy, and I love seeing when his detective, CSI angle actually comes in use. Like I remember they had like all the white line stuff that they were doing too. And it was like they forgot he was a detective, and he would just instead it would just be, "Oh, hey, you're late, and he would just show up to the scene. But then it was just like, "Oh, what did I miss?" It would never be a whole, "Oh, hey, I should investigate this and look for clues." Like I remember thinking to myself because I did I did a rewatch of it a few years back, and I'm like, man, that was a cool thing that they had going with that pilot. What happened? And that's not to say
You
I
know what
don't
happened?
like
The
the
writers
first
don't know
season
how to.
because of it.
So unfortunately, the writers of that show and even up till now don't know how to write or craft a mystery and understand detection. No,
And it
it's legit
shows.
seriously because it's completely dropped by the second episode.
Yo, dude. And that's sad. Like, once again, I love that first season. I still do. But it's just like it really bums me out. Like, and at the time I didn't understand it, but now obviously looking back in the retrospective sense, I can see why it happened because as you said, Script, these people are just they're not capable of doing this type of stuff. They just are not like they just are capable of telling each other how amazing they are and crying and going all over about their feelings.
I
And
think there's a subplot where like Iris is phasing in and out of the present or something
oh
like, and nobody's
god,
knows why, and that's supposed to be the strange attractor for
what?
the season.
What?
And it's like, well, I mean,
I'm sorry.
like they don't know what they're doing on that show. I mean, I usually put that show on to fall asleep faster because it is a very boring show.
Oh my god, Script!
Wow.
You
Use it as an
almost made me
emergency.
spit out my
Wow.
Red Bull.
Well, this
Melatonin.
just came
sorry.
across the transom. Anthony Mackie says he starts shooting Captain America 4 in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Ah!
Oh, hey Anthony, do better.
He better not, well.
Oh, you
Say it.
know
A
it.
black man has to be careful going out there and say he's going to shoot a white dude. I'm just saying.
Say it.
Well, I mean,
Nobody?
he's got
Nobody?
I think that's funny as fuck.
he's
Damn.
got the Winter Soldier.
He's already Falcon, for fuck's sake. Why does he have to be Captain America 2?
Because Captain America is just a mantle.
This goes
now.
right back to the
It's
Riri
just
shit
a
I was bitching about.
mantle. It's a mantle, Tom, dude. It's
I mean,
my
Captain America
mantle.
can technically be a
Tom!
mantle, but you'd think it'd have a bit more of an intimate connection to it than just this Uncle Sam guy who already established his own character.
What were you going to say, Mike?
Tom, I'm going to be accused of being racist because I am not embracing this character at all. This portrayal of my Captain America. I want my Captain America looking the way I read him in the fucking book.
Well, not just that.
Why?
You can still. This is what goes right back to my point earlier about
Why
comic
can't brown
books.
guys like white characters, superheroes? Why?
Well, Falcon is already his own character.
Right.
On top of that, there's a story to be told where you can bring back Chris Evans. What happened in between the years that he returned the stones, and we see old man Steve Rogers at the end of Endgame? There's a whole movie or television show right there for us.
Yeah, and that old man Steve Rogers is like
man.
130 years old. So, there's if that's what he looks like at 130, you can tell he was probably still pretty spry into his 70s and 80s, which would be the decade of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, even if he did do kind of like the whole idea of he just didn't do anything in all that time because he was afraid he was going to mess with the timeline, there's still the story of him returning the stones. I'm sure we all want to know what happened when he came face to face with Red Skull again.
Oh,
yeah,
I know,
and also
right?
what happens when you return a soul stone after the body's been
Exactly.
sacrificed. Like that's the ambiguity. I mean, that's why I'm like, you know, as much as I enjoy some of the Russo brothers' making, like they pitched that part of the thing of the story, and it doesn't land. Like
Well,
they
it
should have
doesn't
known
land, but
better.
in a sense, it leaves it open to where, and I've said this several times before, it leaves the door open to bring her back, right? Because as we said, we know you have to leave something behind to take the stone. But as I pointed out, they never tell you what happens if you bring the stone back. Well, first of all, you've got, you know, Captain America coming face to face with Red Skull again. He's probably going to try and fight him right off the bat, and then Red Skull's going to finally tell him, like, look, I'm not the same Red Skull you know, right? I'm this totally different entity now that controls this doorway between whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then he knows, like, well, here's the stone, speaking of, and I'm returning it to its rightful place. Well, that's where that sets that whole thing in motion, where you can bring her back too. That's what I'm saying. It's not like they can't, but we know why they don't want to bring Chris Evans. We know why they don't want to bring, well, several reasons why they don't want to bring ScarJo back now. And same thing for Robert Downey Jr., and that's because they cost too much money. And I think that's another reason why, on a kind of a similar note, why I think we're hearing that Brie Larson is signing on to the next couple of Fast and Furious films, because I think she's done at Marvel. I think her appearance, now that we just found out about yesterday that she's going to be in Doctor Strange 2, because they released a clip yesterday that has her in it. Wanda. And then the fact that she's going to be in Miss Marvels or whatever the Marvels or whatever that fucking movie's supposed to be her sequel. I think that's it. I think her contract's up. And then this younger girl's going to take over that role, because they ain't going to keep spending the money they have to spend on these actors, because that's what the problem is going to come to, right? Is you got to bring down the budgets of these films. And why did Avengers Endgame cost so much money? Because of the cast. Because they had every Tom, Dick, and Harry in there, and it cost an ungodly amount of money to bring them all back. In fact, I heard, for instance, like Paul Rudd got like $13 million or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean that's the thing is the only smart deal Marvel did was with Samuel Jackson, because they signed him for 9 pictures at a flat rate, and they only used him in cameos essentially.
Exactly, and Brie started off at $5 million, so that just tells me each and every time it goes up and up and up. Because I believe, to contrast that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Paul Rudd did the first Ant-Man, I think, for only a cool $1 million.
But Tom, you're forgetting that Brie Larson is a leading YouTuber.
Well, no,
yeah,
she was a recent Oscar winner. That's what got her $5 million.
No, what's funny is that was the article Culture and I were reading earlier. That's how it started out as noted YouTuber Brie Larson. Didn't say Oscar winner. Didn't say anything else. Noted YouTuber. Yeah.
All these. It was clear right from the get-go when the Phase 4 announcement happened. Like, the all new, all different Marvel was created in the comic books as a testing ground so they could eventually launch the movie. It didn't matter if the books failed or not. Obviously, they all universally did. Like, obviously, some sold better than others, but overall, they didn't do good. And I remember people thinking, I remember at my comic shop, like, oh no, I hope they don't go all new, all different. There was that concern. And then the San Diego Comic-Con happened, and everyone's worst fears came to life. And it ended up being even worse than we could imagine. And it's just like, if every character can just be anyone, then there's no point of the identity of that character. Like, I like Bucky Barnes, I do, and I was around when Bucky was Captain America briefly. But the thing is, the idea of Captain America was Steve's thing, because he was the kid who literally couldn't fight, literally, and he just wanted, serve his country. And then he obviously took that formula. That's what made it special. Sam Wilson is not a super soldier. He's a human being. At least with Bucky, you can argue at least he has some superhuman ability. Yeah, sure. Sam can fly. That's great. Steve can't, but Steve is a tactician. He has no problem, fighting a guy who can fly. He can work around that. Sam has to fight guys who are way stronger than him, and it's gonna be like bad to watch. And they get all about the racism, of course, and then of course, I already know Love and Thunder is going to be an absolute, shit show. I can see it now. And that's unfortunate, because I like Christian Bale, and they actually had something good going on with Gore the God Butcher early on before All New, All Different, but they're just going to rush into it as if they haven't emasculated Thor enough. Now it's just become a hold my beer of how much more we can do that to Thor. Like I have a thing, honestly, I think she's probably gonna die. And he's gonna like somehow magically look up to her and he'll be like, she was the best Thor ever, type of thing. And then all of a sudden he wins and he beats Gore just because they say, okay, listen, I now realize I need to be a better hero because of Jane. And it's gonna be all about Jane. That's what I think.
Oh, hey, I got it beat. I got it beat, Nick. You know what's gonna happen?
What do you think?
Okay, you're gonna find out because like it's gonna follow the comic book line or whatever, to where she's got the cancer or whatever.
Yes.
And her doing the Thor stuff is gonna make it worse. But what's gonna happen is at the end, Thor finds out that he can save her, but he has to transfer all his godly powers to kill the cancer or whatever. So then by the time the movie's over, he'll have given up her powers to her.
Oh.
So he'll just be immortal.
Sacrifice his mortality to cure
exactly. Her. He will be immortal. Yes.
Oh, that's just as bad, if not worse.
How much you want to bet?
I could see it. I really could.
Wow. It's basically going to be like a Highlander story, but not as interesting.
Yeah, because he's going to find out that her using the power of Thor is just it's like sucking the life out of her. As to where if I give her the power of Thor,
wow.
And she can actually wield the power of Thor like she's supposed to, that will cure the cancer. And I can sacrifice myself to save the one woman.
Why can't he just,
even worse when they take his literal namesake from him? Like that's his
Mighty Thor.
Name.
He's Mighty Thor.
Oh, dude.
Can she just use? I have a question for Nick. Nick, imagine a plot line where she uses her Thor powers to make a really good sandwich.
That better have. It better be toasted.
And with that,
I was gonna say, if it ain't
at
toasted,
that moment, Mike had
Jane
known
Foster.
that he had been canceled.
2 hours later, Mexican Iron Man's reading his email, and he's it says, "Oh, I got an email from Andre. What does it say? You are, and with that, you are canceled."
No, you know damn well we'd stand by you, but the world would try to cancel you for that. Like the woke folk would, for sure.
It's already happened. It's already happened. Like last year, when before I went Cameron on a bunch of shows, I was accused of being appropriating Mexican and being a white guy. That was really a white racist guy. You didn't hear about that, Tom? That was like more than a year ago.
Oh lordy!
So I went Cameron in a big live stream and I ranted.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to change the subject real quick. We'll get back to this, but I've had a few people reach out to me now. Evidently, YouTube is burying this feed. I've had no less than 3 people reach out to me, and one who says that they normally watch it on their Xbox and it was missing in their subscription feed. So do share out the link, guys. Let everybody know we are live.
Okay, so one of the things I should tell you is that earlier today I was trying to watch different stuff streaming because I was working downstairs, and in my app, my TV app, and my iPad app weren't working. Like I couldn't get live feed updates. It was really weird.
You know,
I think YouTube is trying to protect misheard. But anyhow,
I agree.
Say, Nick, go ahead.
This is just a little recommendation, and I know I've been preaching about it all over my Twitter feed, but I'm just saying by experience, now that I tested out 3 times yesterday and it worked, Gilded actually sends notifications for when shows are all about to start. And I had people all tell me that they got their notifications that tune into streams, whether it was the one I did with Walton or the one that talks a lot or yelling at parked cars. Everyone who's on my Gilded all told me that they got the notification. And I thought that was really cool. Unlike YouTube, where you're lucky if you get it. Like, I should get yours, Tom, believe it or not. I actually do get your notifications, but I seem to be an exceptional guy. Most people don't. But I'm just saying get on Gilded because people are actually getting the notifications. That's the moral of the story. Get on Gilded.
What the hell is a Gilded?
It's like Discord. Just as
God.
well, if not better.
More stuff I don't understand.
Did I have?
I get notifications when things are completed. So if you post a video that's complete, I get it. If you premiere a video, I won't. And if you complete,
I have the same issue. I'll get alerts like way into a broadcast, like an hour after it started and stuff like that. And
this one
like,
does them
the
all
other
half
day,
hour.
Actually, and here's some inside baseball. Andre was talking about a few things that he was noticing the other day, and I said, "Well, I noticed something funky on my end." He's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I noticed like my main, like, you know, when you bring up YouTube, it usually has a bunch of whatever the newer stuff from your subscription feeds are, and it suggests you a few things. Well, it started suggesting me things that I would never have any reason to watch or any reason to come up in my feed. And I started taking screenshots of these and sending them to Andre, and he's like, yeah, something's up. So like, I maybe I can find them here. I threw them in a folder. I deleted them, but anyway, it doesn't matter now. But like, yeah, it was just types of videos that me personally would never like. There's no reason that YouTube should have found any kind of connection to anything I watch to bring them up. Like they're just off the wall. But they were, the thing that stuck out to me most about it was because they were random. But I noticed this, and this is why I brought it up to Andre, because all of them were like channels that had 800,000 subscribers. That was the common denominator. They all had like 800 and some thousand subscribers. That was the common thing about each and every one of these oddball channels that were popping up in my feed. I'd never heard of before, never watched a video from before, all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, where is this shit coming from? So yeah, YouTube's messing with something. They've been messing with something for a few weeks, and as soon as they are done, we'll know. But we'll feel the effects for a while. But we have another member chat. Gonzalo Bergali has been a member for 5 months at the maximum effort puppy level. Says, just stopping by to say hi and wish everyone a good show. Can't stay. It's Libertord's Cup Night.
Libertadores.
Libertadores. That. So hopefully he hears this in a replay, and thank you for stopping by. We appreciate that. But yeah, was there anything else we needed to discuss, guys? I mean, there was that Thor business. There's the Ironheart. We got all that.
What's crazy is that they have this Captain America 4 when they just could have called it Falcon, and people would have been far more excited.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, Strip, because what I feel is really like, I mean, obviously I'm a mixed race guy, but I see it so it's like you took one of the very first ever black superheroes, and you're saying he's not good enough to have his own identity. He needs to live under the identity of a white man. I just feel like that's the tragic part for the Falcon. The Falcon can stand on his own two legs, and you have a great actor with Anthony Mackie, who's a great fit for the character. Why is the Falcon not good enough? Why do you only see like, oh, the white man character is a character that is the one that people like? Like, if you really believe in the Falcon, commit to it. Go all the way with it. Give him something creative to call his own. Instead, you're giving him the hand-me-downs. You're giving him the, like, saying you only deserve what came before. You don't deserve to have something to call your own.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's one of the issues when it comes to Captain America and the Falcon, is that the Captain America brand is stronger than Falcon, unfortunately. And if they wanted to say keep Captain America but make it a legacy character, well, you've already given yourself a great window of opportunity to do that with the fact that he ended up with Peggy Carter. So he's going to have children, and we know that he had 2 sons because Peggy gave birth to 2 sons. And why not have him train his grandchild, whether it's a boy or girl, doesn't matter. So long as he's the one that's kind of like in that Bruce Wayne Batman Beyond role, teaching the kid how to use their powers, responsibilities, and, you know, encouraging them as like a legacy character. You're then creating an original character to take the mantle who has this, you know, actual connection to Steve Rogers that's far more intimate than just a friendship. Like there's that whole weight of, you know, the family name on your shoulders to be the Captain America that, you know, started this entire legacy. There's definitely a touching story you can do there with, like, you know, a grandparent to a grandchild relate dynamic, especially considering if, like, you know, the parent died, you know, serving their country. You have this things like, okay, you know, your dad was Captain America, and, you know, someone has to take up the mantle because you have these powers that are, you know, granted to you by the super serum that's in my blood. And there's a responsibility that comes to that. And you have this great thing where the kid, you know, rises to the occasion. And the other part too is you have the right actor playing old man Steve Rogers. Doesn't have to be Chris Evans anymore. You just get an old guy.
Yeah.
A little bit cheaper.
I mean,
and
I see what you're getting
quite
at.
effortlessly with a lower cost, as long as you get a good charismatic actor to play that role. And you're showing this generational handoff to this character. Personally, I would much prefer a James Bond style take of Captain America in the 60s and 70s, where because he knows how the timeline is supposed to be, he goes on missions that threaten the sanctity of that timeline.
I like that.
Someone's gonna, someone builds like their own helicarrier, and they're gonna blow, like, crash or use it to blow up or take over New York City, and Captain America stops it because he remembers specifically that doesn't happen in his history. So he's clearly has to go on this mission to stop it because that's what he did originally.
No, I do agree with most of what you said. I do say though, on the part about obviously Captain America is the bigger name, but we can't forget there was a time when Ant-Man wasn't a household name, or even the Guardians of the Galaxy. And the Falcon had live action before those, and Falcon, I dare say, had more comic book legitimacy than even Ant-Man. He's been part of many big teams. Ant-Man would just have a bunch of miniseries sporadically on end, and also Falcon is consistently with Captain America. I'd argue in defense of the Falcon, he had more legitimacy to his name, and he was mostly, if not always, Sam Wilson. Whereas Ant-Man, you had Hank Pym, you had Scott Lang, and you had Eric O'Grady, and so I feel like,
and then Ant-Man also became Yellow Jacket and Giant Man. The thing is, in the history of the character of Hank Pym, nobody who was writing at Marvel for the character knew what the heck to do with Hank Pym.
No, they didn't.
They just didn't. I mean, he was such a cool gimmick for a character, but he had no identity. Jan Van Dyne was basically a fashion designer who wanted to be a superhero for reasons, and then the other part too, which I always find this silly because I don't think any superhero in their right mind would ever do it this way, but the fact that the Avengers is essentially like a liaison a liaison entity with permission from the U.S. government, as opposed to just saying, screw you, government, we're doing things that are right, and we are doing it within the laws of your land. And unless that changes, you have no jurisdiction or don't have any reason to give us permission to do anything because it's a violation of civil liberties. Because it's they're not really they're not going after the run-of-the-mill people. They're going after these fantastical supervillains that can literally change the course of human history on a whim. And they're stopping them, and then they're letting the authorities take over after the fact. They're not the judge, jury, and executioner. But the fact that they have a charter and all these things, it was just so needlessly bureaucratic for a superhero team. And when Justice League started adopting some of those things as well, I'm like, that's also terrible too, because it's counterintuitive to what they're supposed to be, which is essentially just a team of good Samaritans.
That's what they're supposed to be. But now you got people who are basically full on status who think, oh man, these guys got to answer to somebody. They just can't operate on their own, because how dare you have actual civil liberties? They don't understand that idea.
Didn't Watchmen kind of already tackle that out?
Big time to death.
And
every imitation.
And then this whole idea of Falcon this is my point. Is I've said this a million fucking times over. Same thing with women characters. Is there are hundreds of characters that have not seen the light of day yet. I've made the point that Wonder Woman should have had 5 fucking movies by now, right? There's no excuse that we didn't get a Wonder Woman movie until this fucking century. That is bullshit. But
there's a lot of really bad Wonder Woman scripts in the
granted, but my point, I think my point is sound in that. There's no reason we shouldn't have, but there's no reason to be turning around and gender swapping or race swapping any fucking character
it's
when there's dozens, if not hundreds, already in existence, and people like Falcon. In fact, they liked Anthony Mackie as Falcon,
and he was the shining star of Winter Soldier.
And giving him the mantle of Captain America is exactly what we've been saying all this time when it comes to Miles Morales and all these Ironheart characters and shit like that. Is they are unoriginal and they're stealing from the past to try and build themselves up. And I'm sorry, but if I was somebody in that position, I would feel like, oh, so you're saying I can't be as important as Captain America without taking his sloppy fucking seconds.
That's a problem, Tom. They see as they are not legitimate to have a name to call their own, which is sad because those characters have had legitimacy that date back decades. As I mentioned earlier, with all the history the Falcon had, and yet Ant-Man had his own movie, yet Falcon was more active in team-up books and even at times probably had a few of his own miniseries. So he had more legitimacy.
I knew of him when he was in the movie, and
I did too.
I wouldn't call myself a novice necessarily,
Yeah.
but I've never read like large runs of comics or anything like that. So
they made a movie on the Eternals. We'll just say that. If they can make a movie on the Eternals, you can't tell me that they can't make a movie for someone else. Dude, we should have, if anything, we should have had a movie on Richard Rider Nova by now.
Oh,
Nova.
yeah. They already introduced the Nova Corps already.
Yeah, the core. But I want Richard
But
Rider.
let's call it what it is. What this is this is white man bad, white superheroes bad, erase them all.
Yes.
You're not wrong, Mike. That's exactly
and that's what pisses me off, because I don't want to have this like this mental masturbation that these SJWs talk about, like when they try to justify what they're doing. No, it's point blank that you want to erase the heroes that all of us grew up with. And sorry, not fucking sorry. What's wrong with me having a fucking white guy as a hero? I don't want him to be Mexican. I mean, fuck.
There's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong, because truth be told, I never, ever, ever once in all the comic books I bought, the action figures I played with, all the hundreds, thousands of hours I spent growing up, not one time. And I was dirt broke, poor, adopted by and raised by a single fucking mother. And you know what? Now what? I mean, my mother was fucking. I just mean the scenario was a fucked up situation because I was in a fucking shitty ass neighborhood and we were broke as fuck. And not once did it matter to me, race, color, any of that.
No, you just wanted a fatherly figure, and Captain Kirk fit that role, and he was a good guy, and he was everything you aspired to be, strong and trustworthy, and all those things. And
I didn't say, hey, when I grow up, I want to be white. I mean,
no, that's not. But that's what they'll try to project on you.
Jesus Christ.
That's the old Darth Vader joke from the 90s, isn't it?
So you're saying down deep down inside, we all want to be white?
Tom, I don't know if you remember, but there's an article that got out a few years ago when they announced that they were working on the Eternals movies, where they admitted that they were tackling lesser-known properties like the Eternals so they can get away with making the needless changes, because they are hoping that they would get less blowback for it.
All right,
so they're admitting that they are changing these characters so they can make it about what they want versus what they actually are.
That is a big part of it, Nick. And that's because it also plays anyway, so. Well, yeah, it also plays into this idea when it comes to the big characters that they know they're losing the rights to people like Spider-Man and stuff like that. So that's why they're introducing these redundant versions or derivative versions or derived versions.
They're just basically rebranding the character enough so that it can be owned by the company and not ever risk public domain.
Exactly. So there's that aspect of it too. And here's the thing. I think there's one way to fix this. Let's start a petition right now to make Wonder Woman a trans POC.
No!
That'll fix this whole fucking thing tomorrow.
It was already bad enough when Wonder Woman was named an ambassador to the UN for women's rights, and then the women's rights activists said, no, you can't have a fictional character doing that. And it's like, well, there's a number of fictional characters that are ambassadors to various other things that support growth and harmony for children, and yet they're all remain in place. But you can't have Wonder Woman because for some reason, because she wears a bustier and a leather skirt, that's considered sexist. I thought
I want RuPaul as Wonder Woman.
Should be Nubia.
I don't give a fuck. I want to make my point like a motherfucker here.
Tom, these are not the solutions we are looking for.
I know this is my point, Mikey. I'm making a point.
Oh.
It'll make their little heads explode. I mean, we already saw the preview to this. Remember when they were going to cast a black chick in Buffy?
Yeah.
The reboot that never happened?
Yeah.
And even like Kelly Sue DeConnick and all those people lost their fucking minds. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine what would happen tomorrow if they announced they're going to make Wonder Woman a trans POC.
I wonder how that would go.
How crazy the world would be if they cast an actress with the measurements of a 36, 28, 36 to play Wonder Woman instead of the beautiful yet very kind of non-feminine looking Gal Gadot.
I think they would eat themselves alive trying to debate that shit, and we just sit back and laugh.
Yeah.
Because we know. And then it would just be funny watching them go through the fucking hoops and try to justify why the ones who don't want it, and then the other ones who are calling each other racist bigots and transphobes, it would be glorious. It would be like, tossing a bomb in the middle of the room and watching each and every one of them blame each other for it.
Oh my God! See, now you wear it like that. Yeah, I want to see.
That's what I'm getting at.
I see what you're getting at now, Tom, and I'm all about. I want to see them all go nuts. Yes,
because they would not know. It would be like they would not know what to do with themselves, because you'd have one side of it that would support it 100%, but then you'd have the other side that would be saying it's, tearing down one of the most iconic women. It would be a fucking glorious fight to watch happen. I mean, pop your popcorn now, kids.
Have we heard anything, speaking of, we're talking about comic book characters and the nuttiness of them all. Have we heard anything since, or are we still silent about Ezra Miller?
No, nothing new. Just there's been the emergency. I think we're not going to hear anything for a while. They're going to keep very DL.
He just wanted to go away, lay low. I'm sure they've talked to his agent, tried to say, "Hey, chill the fuck out."
Hope probably not forgets.
This whole thing's not going to go to court. It's going to get settled out of court, but I think that's what Warner's going to do, is just kind of quietly wait for it to kind of quote unquote go away. They're going to finish up this Flash thing. He's not going to be in any more movies. I don't think there's going to be any more of these Fantastic Beast films. This one,
that franchise is done. The second one didn't even do good, and that's not a diss towards Johnny Depp, but that second flick, like, I don't know how it did like overseas.
The first one did 800 million worldwide, and the second one only did 6.
Yeah, the second one did not do as hot, at least from what I know. Stateside didn't do hot. Like, even its opening weekend wasn't that good to begin with. I remember, like, I actually thought it was going to do well, but then also I saw the sequel came out. I'm like, oh, maybe this franchise doesn't have legs. And then obviously the Johnny Depp thing happened. Now I'm just like, bro, now it's just doomed. And it just shows you, like, why do they let their ideology die with these franchises? Why?
Because they don't give a fuck.
Or they're getting subsidies from someone else, and it doesn't matter what they do with it.
Yep. Would those subsidies be from the state?
No, they're
not necessarily from the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Nikki D sent in another 5. Thank you so much, Nikki D, and says, Hemsworth's been Thor since phase 1. Will he be too expensive to keep him? Or will it be? I think she means be too expensive to keep him around beyond phase 4, or would he be willing to take a pay cut? Now, he's one of the only ones I think that has really kind of publicly spoke out about because I think his contract is up, but he has said he's more than willing to play the role.
He likes the character, so I'm pretty sure he'll negotiate something. I want to
say he was one of the least paid of the bunch at first, because he was one of
he was lesser, an unknown actor. Thor,
exactly, yeah. And I think he's actually on his second contract now, isn't he? This one is that's finishing up here. I think his initial one was only like 3 or 5 picture deal, and then
he got the first picture, and then from that 4. He got his first contract, which was for 3, and then after that was 3. He did another 3, and so this would be his last appearance on that contract. So he's up for renegotiation, as far as I know.
And as long as he stays within reason, I'm sure they'll keep him around.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems like the type of guy who knows which side of the bread is butters, is butter. I mean, he's never said anything negative. He said, I'm more than willing to continue to play the character he's playing along, especially if the end of this film goes the way I just predicted earlier, which, I mean, I was goofing around, but I wouldn't put it past him. If he's willing to go along with all that kind of business, they'll keep him around.
Well, he's got at least another 15, 20 years where he could still kind of look like...
Oh, yeah, easy.
So, yeah, he has nothing to worry about.
Yeah, unless some tragic accident were to befall him. Yeah, exactly.
Well, he does have to start working on his legs, because those things are twigs right now.
Well, and they also kind of added the ability for him to go fat Thor whenever, too. So.
Yeah, which is, I guess, a bit more in line with Thor from Norse mythology, because physically he's not ripped like that. He's just a bulky behemoth sort of thing.
Oh, so I could be Mexican Thor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, from my understanding of Thor in Norse mythology, he doesn't have like a cut set of abs, but he's got like big, strong, muscular arms and super strength, and he's only able to lift up Mjolnir and all that stuff. But he's not necessarily, what Chris Hemsworth is.
Yeah, I think he'll stick around for a while. I don't see why not. What about you, Nick? I think Nick stepped away. All right, well, we'll move on then. And Mark says that Fantastic Beast is not very full. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't think the movie's going to do very well. I think it's going to
Danger.
settle around 250 at the box office. And
All right. Sorry, guys. I put it in the chat BRB. What was that last part you said?
I was just asking how long do you think Chris Hemsworth will stick around for Thor? That was
Not too much longer. I mean, I obviously he's got years left if he really wanted to do it, but I mean, what's the point? Like, if they're gonna do you actually think they would kill Thor Odinson? Like, or do you think he would just be in a movie where he can't be the lead in his own title character, where they're literally taking his namesake away from him? I mean, yeah, I get money talks, but it's just like you're going from being the main star of your movie to now you are the literal supporting role. Like, I don't know. I don't see it happening. But hey, I've been wrong before, and Hollywood has proven me wrong when they show that they always double down on their ideology, that they don't care what they destroy. So we'll see. But I don't honestly see it that much longer.
No,
I
that's
see him
another
doing
point of view.
and a Guardians flick, and that's about it.
You could be right. He could be too white and male for the franchise to continue.
I think they run out of story as soon as they flip it and make her stunning and brave. Then what point? I mean, the whole point about Thor is that he is the ultimate Norse god. I mean, he is a god amongst men. I mean, he
has a day named after him.
He's the most alpha son of a bitch there is, but he's been anything but.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Are they going to go with the fact that, like, are they going to merge Thor with like a human, like they did in the 90s when?
Are you talking about when they do with the stick? I know what you're talking
about.
Well,
I mean, there's the part where they cursed him to be human, and he was Dr. Robert Blake.
I didn't even know they did that in the comics.
There's
now
another
that they
part
did,
where like a single
he
dad.
had a Earth identity. He had an Earth identity where he would hit a stick on the ground.
That I knew.
That was Blake.
That was Dr. Blake or something. Yeah.
Then there's Eric Masterson.
Was Eric Masterson the single dad who lost custody of his kid because he had to turn into Thor?
Oh God, I can't remember.
I don't remember which one. All I know is about the one that was going to be the TV show that was in
Donald Blake. Donald Blake. That was his name. Donald Blake. Because I remember when the I think what cartoon was in the 90s during when Fox had all the animated series. Oh, he was on the Hulk episode, and you see him hit the stick on the ground. And he went from Donald Blake to Thor, and they're giving him that Earth identity so he can learn to meld in with humanity a little, so you can try to understand
and appreciate humanity.
Yes,
and then once he did, he then dropped the Donald Blake persona, and then something happened to him where maybe I think because there was a period where his bones were weakened and he had to build armor to keep his body.
I remember that
together. And then on top of that, he also transformed into I think Eric Masterson, who was a single father.
Thunderstrike. D-Bud said Thunderstrike. I think he's right.
Yeah.
I remember Thunderstrike because that was that one where he had that weird jean jacket outfit and the blonde long hair was put back. And I was just that was and they actually tried making they tried to actually make that an ongoing series, I remember. And it didn't really do well, but Marvel at the time kept saying, no, this series is doing great. It's never done. It's doing so much better than the actual Thor book. They were denying stuff way back when. People say, oh man, these companies never admit they were wrong. Dude, they were doing it even back in the 90s. Granted, there are some books I was enjoying, particularly the 2099 line, but I do remember them basically being equally narcissistic about never being wrong on anything. They defend the Clone Saga too. That should tell you everything.
Yeah, the Clone Saga was a huge.
Yeah, and not the original Clone Saga. The original is good, but we're talking that 90s ongoing.
The 90s when they say Peter Parker's a clone and it's not Ben Reilly when we all know it is. And
oh, talk about convoluted, dude. That stuff was as that stuff was more as confusing as anything that involves the words X-Men and time travel.
Yeah.
And with that.
Yeah, we got another one from Nikki D here. FWIW. For what it's worth. Hemsworth recently claimed in an interview that Marvel Studios' enthusiasm for his characters returning is waning. Yeah.
For the best.
Again, I mean, I was half joking but half serious when I said he is a bit too white and male for the franchise, and I was not kidding with them giving her the mantle with the whole Mighty Thor thing, because she did not want to be a part of this franchise. I was surprised they got her back. While there's only one way I could see them talking her into coming back that's not monetarily, involved, and that would be,
she's only doing this for the money.
if she is, then that's fine. But like otherwise,
it's her husband can't support her family.
No. I get what you're saying, and that's my point. Is like outside of the money, the only other reason I could see her doing this because she was not a fan of the last one, and she very publicly said she was done with these movies. I think that the only other thing that could really draw her back in besides money would be that they said, yeah, you're going to be Thor from here on out. And that's the thing is, like I said, this
is weird because I would say that would probably drive her away from doing those movies.
You think so?
She does not like responsibility like that.
Yeah, I heard she had hated being on the set of the first two movies. That's the part that surprised me.
Well, she only did it for the money. Heck, she hated being on the set for Mars Attack. She hated doing Star Wars, but they were the only jobs paying, and those were the only franchises or movies that actually got her back into the conversation, because nobody had been talking about her since Leon the Professional, and she'd been doing stuff in between. And same thing after Star Wars, no one really spoke. Like, she did Black Swan, and even then, she had launched this huge campaign to bury Mila Kunis because she felt like Mila was better taking away her own, star in that film. There's so many things going on, but Natalie Portman, she wants to be a more of a, not like an action star. She just wants to do her job in a role that's simple and easy, and then cash her check and walk away. Being an action star like a Thor is the exact opposite of her habit.
Well, what I mean more so is it's a sure thing, and this is kind of going back to what we were talking to earlier too with Brie, is like a lot of these actors, I think they've learned that their brand as an actor is only worth as much as many franchises as they have under their belt anymore, because the franchises now are the true stars.
Yeah.
So regardless of how she feels about this, I'm sure she's realized, and her pocketbook has noticed that Marvel money missing. You're right about that, I'm sure, in the last few years. Because let's remember, she has not done one of these movies since Dark World, which was almost a decade ago now, right? Damn near.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
pretty close.
Man. So the Dark World, 2011. I remember it was November 2011 because I did see it opening night in theater, because I was actually looking forward to seeing Malekith the Accursed. And then I'm like, wow, Malekith was barely in it.
With Christopher Eccleston, yeah. He really made an impact, right?
That's a great villain. That's a villain that should have had a very big impact. And it's a bummer that the film turned out the way it did. And we'll never know, because I know originally Patty Jenkins was originally attached to it. And then obviously she moved over to Wonder Woman. And I don't know, she
left Thor Dark World because she didn't like the script.
Yeah, she didn't like this. Yes.
I was going to say there's a good gap in between. It wasn't like she jumped from one to the other. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like she jumped from one to the other, but yeah. No, I get what you're saying, though, Nick. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so that's where I was talking to you, script. Outside of the money, I could see them maybe enticing her back. It was like, this is going to be a sure thing for the next few years. And granted, a decade ago, making movies like this she was not happy with, didn't like the responsibility, perhaps. But she's also knows she's not getting any younger. And most actresses know that their, timetable on their career, she's getting close to that point where it's going to take a dip.
Maybe that's why her character might die. That's why
technically she should be, yes.
Yeah,
she's lucky she looks a lot younger than she is. That's the other part.
She's also tiny too. So
yes, exactly. So she's got a few extra years. But we all know it. It's just the way it works in the genre. Unless you can find a way to reinvent yourself, like a Meryl Streep or a Glenn Close or somebody like that throughout the years, you're going to reach this dip in your career where instead of playing the leading lady, eventually you're going to come back as the mom and the aunt and this character and that character. And you may have been a huge actress at one time, and the same thing happens to some guys too. So it's not like it's just women, right? not every guy can be Harrison Ford playing an action star well into their 40s and 50s and 60s, right? It just doesn't always work out that way. For every Clint Eastwood, there's a dozen other actors who, their star burns out after a while, and then they come back playing the teacher in some fucking sitcom on, ABC in 20 years from now. That's just kind of the way it works.
Yep.
But and that's just it. She's never been one of those actresses like a Julia Roberts or anything like that, to where she's not going to go away if she doesn't get something like this. That's my point. Is she needs something like this right now in her career, because otherwise people are going to forget about her.
Yeah, that could be for the best.
Because it's been,
that could be for the best.
30 years almost, or whatever, not quite, but 20 some years since she's done the prequels. That's her last big franchise she had before getting involved with Marvel.
Well, let's see. Yeah, the Phantom Menace was 99. Yeah, so then 09. Yeah, so 20.
And that was kind of arguably what kind of put her on the map as far as what you would consider an A-list actress.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
so
even Julia Roberts has gone to television now. So
absolutely. Well, television isn't what it used to be. That's the thing. The stigma of television has completely changed. Yeah. In fact, I just saw, who was it talking about this? Jason Lee was just talking about how this has changed, because he was discussing the conversation started out about how, they did 26 episodes a season of Earl. And then they, just abruptly got canceled in that 4th season, which I think goes along with those things where we've talked about, where the whole reason they probably did was NBC was supposed to take over the show from Warner Brothers or whatever. But anyhow, he said flat out, he goes, the difference then compared to now, he goes, I didn't want to go to television because I had done movies and I was on my way up the ladder as far as movies go. And for me at that point in my career at that time to jump to television, in some people's cases, could be, career suicide, especially if you do a show and it flops. Because then you get a stigma and nobody wants to work with you because they see you as a TV actor, and the film actors, they're like, whatever, he went to television, he's no longer a film actor, we don't need him, blah, 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 blah. His star isn't worth what it used to be. And then the same thing goes, you ain't going to get no work in television after that because you did a show that fucking bombed right away. Well, for him at that time, it was a big career risk. The show worked out for the most part, but his career hasn't really gone anywhere since then. But what he has done, noticed otherwise, though, is like now it's completely different. He's like now, especially with the streaming shows, he's like an A-list actor can sign up to one of these shows, and it's no different than shooting a film. And the prestige is there. It doesn't have the same stigma attached to it as it did then, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so that's the big difference, as opposed to like, back when he did that, if you had like a big A-list actor deciding to do a television show, which you did at that time, don't get me wrong, it did have Shatner, went to, what was it, Boston Legal and some other stuff.
Well, Shatner's been in television all the time.
Yeah, that was a bad example. I'm trying to think of a good one, damn it.
Well, I mean, there aren't really many A-list actors that went to television. I mean, like George Clooney started in television, then went up to film. But like Jason Lee, like My Name Was Earl was.
That was the whole point. Is it was like a step down, but yeah, usually. But yeah, anyway, you were saying script. Sorry.
Well, here's the other thing, and it's some of the thing that's still a concern with regards to the industry is the fact that for a subscription service, it is more beneficial to the pocketbook of the audience than it is going to a movie theater, which is why the studios kind of need the movie theaters, is because they make more money.
The example I was going to use was Kevin Spacey. That's why I didn't. But anyhow.
Oh, yeah. But that's the thing. Like with a streaming service, I can spend $9 a month and see a bunch of movies and a bunch of television shows made for that service. Or I could go to the movie theater and spend $12 for one night to see anywhere from 90 minutes to 2.5 hours of a film. What is more beneficial? What's more bang for my buck? It's always going to be the streaming service, unfortunately. That's the way it is. And that's why, the studios are kind of panicking, because they're realizing that even if they get, say, 100 million subscribers on their service, they're still making less money compared to a film in theaters, because they're charging way less for the amount of content they're putting out there. It's not like they're charging $9 a day for the service. They're charging that for the month. And then if you have like a yearly plan, it's a little bit less on aggregate. But again, the prices are going to be going up over the next 2 or 3 years anyways, to the point where you are going to be spending like the cost of an IMAX ticket per month to see, 30 days of potentially fresh content. And that's something that's going to be really changing. And that's why I think there's this big push to maintain the theaters, because they're realizing, oh, if we spend $200 million and we do a 45 to 60 day run in the theaters, we can make way more of our money back, as opposed to if we have to spend, maybe a third of that to create 6 episodes that go across, that are dropped weekly, but we have to do that for not just once a week, we have to do that 7 times over in order to make sure that we hold on, that we have enough fresh content to hold on to our subscribers, so we don't have a turnover. And the numbers are really, really peculiar, because you have to hit a certain threshold to the point where they realize, yes, we can have one tentpole film on our streaming service every quarter, and then we can have a bunch of really lower production shows to drag out on that, and then we can also have another tentpole thing in the theaters. But unless they find some type of some type of incentive for someone who is, say, a Peacock or HBO Max subscriber, and they get like a discount when they go to the theater to see a movie as a subscriber, that's probably going to be the only way they're able to save that infusion of cash for a film in theaters in the future. There has to be some sort of reconciliation between them. Well, because there's no such thing as disposable income among the poor or middle class right now, and that's usually where you get your money for your films.
Well, on a different but similar note, and going off of kind of what Jason was saying in that interview, I think a big difference too from when even just a few years ago compared to now. Yeah, there was Paramount has been part of CBS for a while. Warner Brothers had the WB and other things like that, which eventually came CW, and ABC.
Well, that's like free TV. That's why you
right. But my point is, I'm getting to is like, and ABC has been part of Disney for some time, but what we're seeing now is like even more of a synergy, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Is like, I feel like I think, I mean, this is not the same point you were making, I think, Script, but like, I think that is one way. I think you're right that since most of these studios now are attached so much into cable, streaming, and the networks, that they need to really kind of find a uniformed way of doing that. And that would be a way to generate people getting back to the theaters in some points. But again, that's a whole other thing. But that thing has changed too, to where like the network and being on a network show is not what it used to be. Because he even made the point like then, like, it got canceled with like a 7.6 share. Right. And he's like, CSI now has like the one of the lesser CSI shows gets like a 4 point whatever share on a week. And that's considered a fucking hit. Right.
Well, you're talking about like share or ratings, because those are two different things.
Or ratings. Sorry, not share. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ratings. Yeah. Sorry, not share. But ratings. Yeah. My bad. But no, like, so yeah, like the whole landscape has changed on top of it all. So like, there's all kinds of stuff that.
Well, the reason a 4 point, something network rating is considered a success is because not many people have as much television access as they used to back in the 90s and 80s.
This is true, and it pisses
more
me
people
off.
have cut the cord. They've gone on to digital platforms like YouTube and the internet, and a lot of the times you just don't care to actually sit down and watch television.
Well, they've also made it harder to get broadcast television for free.
There's that too. Like, unless you have a smart TV with a built-in digital antenna, you're not getting anything.
Not really, unless you live in a bigger
cable
city.
Has and the whole cable box, which unfortunately is an invention of the Canadian and has really kind of ruined the television watching experience by blocking off certain channels or preventing you from being able to have an a la carte system with regards to what you want to watch on your television, but you have to get packages of things you don't even watch or channels you don't even consider to watch, so you're paying extra for something you're not getting. Like, people have been kind of, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. If an economy does not have the majority of the population with disposable income, you are not going to be able to take advantage of actually having and building a proper industry for entertainment wise. You have to be very careful of what you pick. And I think that one of the things that the majority of the tentpole studios in Hollywood have yet to realize is the fact that, yeah, you can't just start throwing out stuff, calling it content, and hoping that it's going to retain your subscriber status, because as we're seeing right now with the economy and inflation and things getting more expensive, people are going to have a lot less of an issue cutting a subscription to a service that they probably aren't going to be watching as much of than going to the movies. And if they do go to the film, which is actually a better bang for your buck, because they're probably going to be only going once a month, given the quality of things coming out. It's far more into the better interest of the individual customer than to spend $120 a year on something that you're probably only going to be watching once a week. And it's going to be that one time where you just binge all the shows that dropped that week, because you're probably not going to watch it on the day it drops, because the weird broadcasting hours that they drop them at, 3 a.m. Eastern, midnight Pacific, like that's not usually to an advantage of anybody.
Something fascinating happened out here in South Carolina, which is that our regional service provider announced that they were terminating all on-demand cable services.
Really?
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Probably don't get used enough because of streaming.
That's exactly what.
And Scripps got a point too, because it is so much easier to cancel and sign back up to a streaming service than it used to be to sign up for cable, and because you'd have to literally have a guy show up to your fucking house, or girl,
and disconnect you. Yeah,
exactly, and physically connect or disconnect you, and plus you have the fees and all the other nonsense bullshittery that goes along with it. Oh yeah, it totally makes sense, and they've made cable so it's just so. It's so much of a hassle compared to dealing with the streaming services. But Emerald Sales sent in $2 just to say that Waffles says that Mexican Iron Man is awesome. Aw. Oh, thank you for that.
I agree with Waffles.
Thank you, Emerald.
Yes, he is. He is the awesomest.
I get a little feisty sometimes, though.
But yeah, I see you guys throwing out all kinds of great suggestions for people who started in TV and went to movie. My point was people who were very successful in film and then went to TV. But there was some other good examples besides the ones we were given, like Kiefer Sutherland was one I came up with. Bryant came up with a really good one, Kevin Costner with Yellowstone recently. That's another great example. But that was the whole point, is like, yeah, these cable shows, HBO shows, stuff like that, really kind of laid the groundwork for streaming to not have that same stigma attached to it that an old television, that like it used to be in television, where it's like, oh no, I can't go back to television, or I can't go work in television. That means, my star has fallen. Most famously, David Caruso and several others tried to make that huge jump too quickly and didn't go so well for him too. You have the other side of it, but I was talking about the opposite. And yeah, Stephanie brings up that Harrison Ford's going to Apple TV, and this is the common thing: is a lot of these big A-list actors are signing on to these streaming services now. And that kind of goes back to Script Doctor's article that we were sharing earlier, where it was asking is our companies like Netflix killing the action film in Hollywood? I think was the whole point of that article that you brought up.
To a degree, yeah. I mean, again, a streaming service is totally going to circumvent a lot of genres. I mean, the streaming service is a great genre for miniseries, long-standing series, dramas, even comedies. But for your science fiction, your action drama, your political thriller, your horror, people like going to theaters for those types of things.
Well, you got to be careful with male entertainment, and I'll explain myself. Because women don't mind going to the theater. Women love to go out in general, and I'm not trying to generalize, but in general, they do. Men, on the other hand, the only times, and this is like non-film fans, we're talking like the general average Joes, the type of guys who only get out to go see Fast and the Furious, right? So I see where the article is coming from. When you're killing that one of the main things that gets guys to go see a film, that's going to kill the theater. It's not good, or it's going to kill the theater going experience for that type of genre, when the only action films left in theaters are superhero movies. Men are one of the more driving forces when it comes to action films, superhero films, those type of films, just like the Fast and the Furious. Go ahead, Nick Weiser, because this is.
Well, I was going to say that's just the facts, like the action movies, stuff like that. The guys, it's not that girls couldn't like it, and the girls who liked it, they liked it for what it was.
No, but they see that also as an opportunity to get their guy to go out and see a movie with them too.
Yeah, and that they're like, oh, hey, look, my boyfriend's really into, I don't know, Spider-Man. We're gonna go see this movie. Yeah, they love that. And then of course, you have your Mission Impossibles, which are surprisingly still badass. Yeah, the guys go out to see them because they want to see a dude kick ass, do some crazy stunts, and it's still awesome to watch. And you get that thrill of seeing on the big screen, that high budget, and it's actually put to good use in movies like that. And the streaming shows, like they don't even play like TV shows. They play like, you know, anywhere between 6 to 10 hour movies now, except with a drastically lower budget if you're Netflix. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed especially the first season of Stranger Things as much as the next guy, but boy, is the CG on that and every other Netflix original very hard to look at. It reminds me of when I was in like kindergarten watching those videos on the giant bubble TV. I was just like, wow, this is very, very hideous to look at. Like,
well, another
they're so cheap, but they're how they do the Netflix stuff. They've become the meme. They know it too. They know what they do is cheap. And now they become the meme. And look, was that one anime show that they adapted? One Piece or something? No, not One Piece.
Cowboy Bebop.
Thank you, Cowboy Bebop. Like they it's out there. It's a meme. And then what do? They embrace the meme and they look even cheaper, even more so. Like, I don't know how they do it.
Well, and I'm glad Gutter Jedi brought this up because this goes exactly to my point. It's not just the action films. Comedies have all but disappeared too.
Oh yeah,
and this goes
very hard to translate,
especially
afraid of pissing people off.
Especially the situation comedy.
Well, not just that, like in general, like the movies. Okay, here's my point: is everybody loves to go see different kind of movies, but there's certain genres that were specific for women that would drive them to go to the theater, and there's specific ones that men would drive them to go to the theater. And men loved comedies like the Adam Sandler comedy, for instance, the gross out comedy, the type of comedies that, you know, Nick likes to highlight on Toxic Tuesdays. Those comedies have all but disappeared. I'm trying to think of the last one. The last one I can think of is either Step Brothers or Superbad. One of those two, whichever one came second. I can't remember. I think Superbad.
Well, Tropic Thunder came after those. And that was,
did it really? Well, I thought that was before those.
No.
Okay, well, either or, then it was that group of comedies was the last time we had a real good comedy that really kind of was a classic style comedy that was that kind of, you know, thing. We just haven't. Name one. I'd love to hear it because I have not seen one.
A good comedy that I enjoyed was 2009. I Love You, Man. Paul Rudd and Jason Segel. I thought that was great.
Same era.
That was and that was actually a good comedy, and they were just ridiculous dudes.
Same era as Pineapple Express. That's all. Yeah, that Judd Apatow era was like the last.
I thought that was far better than.
I wouldn't even call the Judd Apatow era even comedies. They're drama films with comedic.
Yeah, but I mean, like they're all like from the same guys from 40-Year-Old Virgin. Is my point.
Oh yeah, same guys.
Yeah.
I feel like,
and there's a reason why they're the last vestige of that is because they kind of killed their own genre.
This may be true, but I think the other half of its script is the woke business. I really do. I think you can't. I would love to try and get a comedy made right now in Hollywood, and I can't. That's the thing that I don't understand, right, guys? Like, look, they're fucking cheap to make in most cases. They're just like a horror film. Yes. Like, why aren't we getting this is the problem, is the middle ground films have gone away, and comedy was a big part of that. You're failing
the other part, which is the fact that comedies only work on a local market, and every movie being made has to work on an international market.
This may be true, but that still
doesn't mean... This may be true. That's the actual fact. I mean, how many English-speaking countries are there throughout the world? I mean, there's a lot, but even then, there's also a whole lexicon that's different to them. Like, you cannot do a comedy like Stuber, which is about Uber driving, and have it play well in freaking Syria. Like, it just doesn't translate.
Well, that's true, but that's not my point.
A market that has to be considered, especially.
There's movies like my point is this, like Dumb and Dumber. It didn't cost $100 million to make. That's my fucking point. Caddyshack, those kind of movies. Yes, granted, they are regional to a point. So what? But they still play in Canada and America, which is more than enough money for them to bring in to make them profitable. It
is, but that's just not the perspective that the studios are having anymore nowadays, because the market has already opened up so big with regards to action and horror that it's like, well, if we're going to be spending $50 million on a film and it's going to be a comedy, we're only going to be able to hit the markets of, like, North America, parts of Europe, and that's it. It's like that to them. They're like saying, well, we're missing the rest of the world, so why spend $50 million on a comedy? We can spend $100 million on an action film and hit every single market and make way more money. Like, that's their logic.
I can see where scripts come from. But it still makes no sense to me. They just why is it that like
Why?
is it
You
that
know
our
why it doesn't
countries
make
don't like comedies, or is it
no,
that
no.
like we
Well, they
don't put as
do.
much effort into pushing them out that way more?
Two things.
What
Is
is
go
the
two
correlation?
two things. Go back to what Script said. Comedy is nuanced and regional. And number two, going back to Tom's point, is that the reason we guys like us don't understand it, Tom, is because we're not greedy ass studio heads with big egos trying to hit the big numbers and gambling with other people's money.
Yeah, like a good comedy, like I say, a $25 million budget comedy that hits well with regards to Western audiences, English speaking dominantly, would make probably about $300 million. And that I would consider as a great success. But to a studio like Warner Brothers or Sony, they're like, no, sorry. Like,
Well, that's exactly what they should be doing, and that's exactly
it's
it.
what they
Because
should be, but they just don't.
my point is exactly this: Dumb and Dumber's budget was $17 million. You can
Yeah,
still
10
make
of
that
that was
movie
Jim
for
Carrey.
exactly, and 10 million of that was just Jim Carrey alone. So you can make movies like that and churn them out, no problem. Like the sex comedies. I was just talking about this with Fancy the other. Porky's created a whole fucking genre.
Oh, the boner
Right?
comedies, yeah.
Yeah, of the story, the sex comedies of the 80s, and they were cheap. They were made under the same idea that the slasher films were made, just without the blood aspect of it, right? You just instead you replace the scares and the blood with goofs and comedy moments. The National Lampoon, the SCTV type thing has gone away, and I don't understand this. And I get your point in the regional thing, but that's where I still don't see where there's not at least enough people that are smart enough to go, you know what? So what if this doesn't play in fucking Uruguay? We're going to still make the goddamn movie because it only costs us $10-15 million to make. American Pie was one of the last big ones too. Like 40-Year-Old Virgin, those kind of movies, they went away. They made a lot of fucking money. A lot of fucking money. And I just don't understand outside of the whole scared because they're woke to do it script. Like I get where you're coming from, but even still with that, I still can't see at least a couple of these studios hedging their bets and going, we're going to make, this and that movie. I can understand not wanting to pay, like Adam Sandler $100 million to be in a fucking movie. That makes sense. Right. Like that totally makes sense to me. But like, there's tons of other places and things you can do with this. There's ways you can make, like we've said it a million times. Why haven't they tried to reboot Police Academy? All you got to do is get the whatever's left of the original cast to be all the, the commandants and the lieutenants and shit like that. And you bring in some new comedians. Like that's a perfect platform for something like that. Like it's so easy to do. I don't understand why they just don't do it.
Well, but you also have to think about the investors. Like a lot of the money that they're getting through are from people from other countries, and if they're saying
that, I understand,
this doesn't feel German enough, or it doesn't feel Russian enough, or it doesn't feel Chinese enough, they're not going to do it. Like that's the fact. The fact is you're trying to make a movie, which is an incredibly difficult part to do. And even if you are able to get the green light, the goal is to be able to show it to as many places as possible in the world to have the better chances of making your money back. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with an English-speaking comedy, you are narrowing that market considerably versus doing something that translates without the like. Again, a comedy like Police Academy, you can get a couple of sight gags that will translate, but it's going to be very dialogue heavy. And again, translating that from English to Mandarin or Cantonese or Russian or German or Slavic or any of those things, you're going to miss a lot of the comedy.
And I understand that, but Pixar found a way to do it. They're
not going to do that. They're just not going to put in the time. They just don't want to.
Pixar found a way to do it, though. Well, at least when Lasseter was there, anyway.
Well, when a lot of the stuff there is mostly physical gags that they used in Pixar.
Sometimes.
Like that's the other part too. Like again, if Silent Movie did wonders, and it wasn't really much of a comedy, but it was like because it had no actual dialogue in it, it could travel anywhere, and people liked it because it relied on the physicality of the actors to communicate the story more so than any specific language. And there's something useful to that. But fortunately, to a degree, because I think it's a mistake to switch every single movie to be silent, because that's you rob one very important aspect.
Well, no, but what you're talking about is a much bigger thing, and I don't disagree with you. I think you're 100% right, and this goes back to Parasite winning the fucking Academy Award that year and pissing me off, is that they're trying to kill the American film in general. And I don't know, other than just try to make every movie so flat and fucking boring and appeal everywhere is, to me, is the only solution they can come up with, and that's where we're at. Because we have nothing left that we can call our own anymore.
And that's
everything is so infested with everything else that, the comedy is one of the first things to go, I guess, because of that. But No, there is no. I don't like
because the
this.
market now for films is not domestic anymore; it's worldwide. That's the biggest part. And until someone can figure out a way to make the domestic market as valuable to compete against a worldwide market, it's going to be like that for a while. And again, that comes down to economic policies, where if, say, the people in North America, Canada, Mexico, United States, were able to say, yeah, we want to see this movie and we want to see it enough times that we could get $1 billion box office between these three countries alone, they're going to jump on that. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, you could make an argument you might be not $1 billion, but considering the low level, like just between US, Canada, and England alone, and Australia, there's 4 continents that any American comedy can play on. And in most cases, the comedy will translate pretty well, I would say. But anyway, no, this is a very
better, yeah.
This is a very good and I don't disagree with you at all, Script. I think you're 100% right. I just still think it's stupid.
No, it is stupid. I mean, that's where we're agreement on both points. It's stupid that they don't do it, but this is the reason why. And you're like thinking to yourself, if you were to tell someone in the 80s this, they would look at you and say, "You're a freaking moron. Let's just take the money that we can get."
Fuck you. We're making Spring Break. It's a $6 million titty comedy. Fuck off. Like, like it probably that didn't even cost that much, to be honest with you. It was probably only like 1.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. But it's just because the bureaucracy within some of the studio systems now and the effort to put forward and the expenses, because again, marketing departments really rack up a huge amount of the bill that they don't need to. And the other part too is that they just don't want to put in the effort for something that they can't accurately predict by a spreadsheet that's going to net them this amount of dollars. Like right now, the past week, because all I've been doing is reading emails and listening to various other phone calls and meetings and stuff because I haven't been able to speak. And all I've been hearing is how WB is really annoyed that they were sure that they were going to make $1.1 billion off the Batman, and they didn't. And they tried everything.
Fault.
They inflated the ticket prices to various prestige theaters to try and get that money, and it didn't happen.
Oh, and I and everybody in this room can tell them why it didn't happen. And it has less to do with the movie itself than it does with the release strategy. Everybody knew, for the most part, that movie was coming to HBO Max. So unless you had to see it right away, you weren't going to go see it. And not only that, they killed the repeat business. That's what I was going to get to. So,
Tom, I'm a Batman fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's pretty well established. Guess what? I never paid to see it. I never saw it.
I know you haven't seen it yet. You're waiting for because it's going to be on HBO and
HBO
Max.
So I'm like, fuck it.
Sooner.
Not just HBO Max, but HBO itself proper. They're showing
HBO Max, and the other part too is a 3-hour runtime. And this is the one thing that the smarter directors I know that are on the rise here are all saying like you can't have a movie that breaks 2 hours because people have to go to the bathroom.
That is a good point.
They hate paying full price for a movie to have to then stop like an hour and a half into it or 2 hours into it, go pee or do whatever, then come back and miss what the heck was going on.
When I heard it was a 3-hour movie, for me, where I live, that now turns into a 4.5 hour project. Well, that's a half day for me.
More than that for me too. Yeah,
in the exactly. Middle of tax season, and versus did I go see Sonic? Yeah, 2 hours down the street, in and out.
Yep. Because it's a 90-minute film, exactly.
Oh, is it really only 90 minutes?
I think it's like 98 or something.
I'm seeing it tomorrow. Yeah. So
and I have no problems with it. And then that's all those factors go into it big time. But I think the one that killed it the most was that no repeat business. Yeah. Spider-Man made the money it did because people didn't know when it was coming out on video. Mm-hmm. Sony said, we're not putting it out on streaming. We don't know when it's coming out on streaming. You're just going to have to fucking wait and see. There was lots of rumors of when it was coming to video and when it was going to come on demand and all this other stuff. We just didn't know until the fucker plopped. And then the only reason the fucker plopped when it did is because it leaked online early. So they would have kept it going even longer if they could have. And that was the main reason that movie did what it did, is because of the repeat business. Not just the first time people went to see it, but the people who kept going back to see it. And there's people I know I talked to who've seen it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fucking times.
Yep. My brother saw it 4 times. I saw it twice.
I'm an example.
I know maybe people saw it 3 times. Many.
I saw it 3 times. I saw it in a regular theater.
I had somebody tell me they saw it 7 times.
And I saw it
in
in the boxes that move, and then I saw it in 4DX 3D.
Mm-hmm. I bought the Target special edition of it today on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I got mine in the mail yesterday. I started watching it, but
I got the Target edition with the photo book, and it comes with. So I still have yet to open up the packaging, but
I got the Steelbook from Best Buy.
Oh, you're a Steelbook man.
Not really. I just tend to grab those because they tend to go out of print early anymore with newer films.
I'm looking forward to all the special features and cut scenes on that.
Here's the thing.
Isn't?
I actually wanted to see No Way Home twice. Like when my brother said, "Hey, you want to go see it?" I'm like, I actually was very enthusiastic about it. Like even the Batman Never Played on HBO Max. Honestly, I wouldn't care to watch it again. I really don't care to.
It wasn't fun. Like Batman movie should still be fun, even if it is dark.
Dark Knight movies were dark and they're still fun.
Very rewatchable, as much as script dislikes it.
The Dark Knight films? No. Nolan's trilogy of Batman films are definitely more rewatchable than anything WB's put out since. Like that's the biggest problem. Like again, I have my issues with the Dark Knight and of course the Dark Knight Rises, and even to a degree, Batman Begins. But all in all, it was a different take. It was a different take on the character, more James Bondish like. But I mean, again, there was something to them that made people want to go back and see them, because that was kind of like the thing. Batman Begins was considered to be a lost leader when it was dropped, and it ended up doing way better than Warner Brothers was expecting.
Well, that had its own issues, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. But then right after that, they screw themselves with Superman Returns. They screw themselves again with Green Lantern. They had the wrong team to work on Man of Steel, even to the point like when Man of Steel came out, Henry Cavill had already gotten a reputation of being a diva, and that had more to do with his agent than him. But he had to do a quick about face for that, because he started realizing that if he came across as a diva, he wouldn't have a career. And he learned the lesson, because it's the same lesson Aaron Eckhart had to go through, because he thought he was bigger than Jesus, so to speak. And ended up killing career opportunities. And then he had to realize, why am I doing that? I'm an actor. I've got the greatest job in the world. I shouldn't be acting like a jerk and a fool to all these people. I should actually be embodying humility. And that's ended up what happening. So Henry Cavill has done an about face, which has been great for him. But the other problem is that even though he's a great cast for Superman, he has still yet to play that character on screen. He's playing basically a very superficial, ham-fisted with messaging, Jesus allegory character that is very antithetical to like what the core of the character is, so much so that you can actually like see in some more recent interviews when Cavill talks about Superman how much he would love to play the character, because he doesn't quite say he wants to return to playing the character. He says, I'd love to keep playing Superman.
Well, it's because in the Justice League version he did get to be Superman for like 10 minutes
pretty much.
And that's one of the only things I will give credit to that version for, is that it is more Superman in that whole few minutes we get of him than any other version we've gotten in the last few years.
Yeah, he actually looked and felt like Superman. It was just like, oh, hey, I recognize this guy. And I do admire his enthusiasm. He's been spotted several times at Comic Con.
They let him smile. They let him actually have some personality and warmth.
Right? Yeah. That wholesomeness, that suburban wholesomeness that you feel when you see him. That's Superman.
Tom.
It felt nice.
It would be great to see him do that on screen for 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh, I'd be all in.
It'd also be great to not put him in a rubber costume. It would also be fantastic to, have him. I mean, listen, Amy Adams is a pretty decent actress, and she's come a long way, but she doesn't really exuberate much chemistry to Henry Cavill, and I don't think he can actually give much of that either. And the other part too is, again, if those films were a success, again, one part of the studio is that when something hits really well, they rush and try and get another one out as soon as possible. And yet it's been 11 years and we still haven't gotten a sequel to Man of Steel.
Well, I think that has a lot more to do with, like we were talking earlier, about contracts and stuff. And the longer they wait to get Henry, the more he's going to cost.
Well, and it's not only that, it's just the fact that if Man of Steel did do what some fans of Zack Snyder think it did, we would be on Man of Steel 4 right now.
Oh, I agree with you there too. But
And
Mike, you were about to
not.
Mike, you're going to say something? Sorry.
I remember.
You don't remember?
No, I lost it. I don't know.
Toxic Man Flu sent us in $2 and he says, I get
Oh, that's what it was. Super Cats. I was going to tell you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's where you get your comedy. I'm funny, but I'm not that funny.
Dude, are you
You're
kidding
hilarious.
me?
Are you out of your mind?
You had us freaking laughing our asses off.
You
last
guys
night
messed
yelling
that
at
whole
parked
thing
cars.
last night. That was hilarious, and you messed it all up.
What?
Toxic man flu. I sent in okay, it's not going to be as funny with me explaining it, but I jumped into the chat of yelling at parked cars after Toxic Femme last night,
Okay.
and I, being a mod, I just started taking it upon myself to drop fun facts, trivia, and on this day in Dixtory. So it's just a bunch of random shit. Like, fun fact: Culture Casino owns the original handwritten sheet music for "Tiptoe Through the Tulips."
Like, yeah, but everybody knows that.
Yeah. Question or trivia time: how many times does Culture Casino actually brush his hair in a day? Answer: trick question. It's not his hair. It's either yak or a very sexy horse. Shit like that. And then like Nick Weiser's like, he has 32 packets of fun fact. Nick Weiser has 32 packets of Taco Bell mild sauce in his drawer at any given time. And he goes, that's kind of true. He's like, I have all kinds of different sauce in my packets in my drawers. So it was kind of fun. It was just me throwing random stupid trivia
the
facts.
other part I think is the 32 flavors comes from DC Comics and Justice League cartoon. From the question, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Literally my intro now for
these were not
my
real
channel.
Facts, but yeah. And the other one was like comics. On this day in Dixtory, Comics Division got his first bike and his first broken ankle. Stuff like that. Toxic Man Flu was, witnessed the first porn theater opening, stuff like that. All kinds of good stuff. Dash attacks in the house and says, the wind is on our side. The woke Iron Curtain is crumbling. Only corporations like Disney are hanging on to for God knows what reason. I'm not even sure if they are at this moment in time. You should
Disney's
check out.
Not hanging on to it. Some of their staff is hanging on to it. That's
exactly. And not only that, I think you should check out Andre's video we dropped. Well, it's the video we dropped earlier. He wrote it, but it's one of our rare news reports and not just an editorial. Where it just kind of breaks down everything that's going on. And now the ball is kind of in Chapek's court, if you look at it that way. Because a lot of people are like, oh, he bent the knee. You got to remember that video that leaked out and all that stuff happened before those protests from the other side, which were much louder and more organized. And you've seen, I've heard upwards of over 500,000 people unsubscribe from Disney Plus. Now, again, these aren't things that are going to make them instantly react, but they're things that now Chapek has in his pocket for later on, right, Mike? When it comes to,
you see the stock price?
Exactly, like when it comes to the next.
Stock price dropped a little, but the other part too is that Chapek is now in a new arena with new rules that he was not prepared for, because again, he came all from business side of stuff, and now he's being attacked through social rhetoric, and that's a way different game, and he has to figure out a quick way to turn that against them, while at the same time using his bag of tricks on the corporate side of things. That's going to take some time. So you're going to see some missteps on this. And it's very likely that he might not succeed. It's always a possibility, because you never know when it comes to this social warfare that's going on, how strong a person can be resilient when, there's all this pressure from the people that put a man in like him in his position that could, go back and say, yeah, we're not going to renew him. We're just going to get someone else to do this and try again from a different angle. Because, it's a whole new ballgame for him. So we'll see in the next few weeks how well he plays this. I think it is smart of him to basically sort of placated so he can identify the bad players and then start thinking of a very economically sound way to dispense of them without it really hurting any further of the reputation of Disney.
Well, and he's getting to that point where he's going to be. I mean, he's got just under a year now, I think, left on his contract, right?
He's got 11 months.
February, I think it is, March or February. So yeah,
March-ish, something like that.
I'm going to be curious to see what happens in the last 4 to 6 months of his contract. That's when I think he'll make the most strategic and cutthroat moves. What do you guys think? I want to hear.
I want to jump in.
Say from the analyst.
I want to show. Well, first of all, what Script just said is incredibly important, because one of the things that I said way early on was that even though I'm a fan of this guy, the problem with this guy is that I know his type of personality, and he's an accountant, and having spent my entire life around accountants in my own industry, he is, as Script aptly said, he is in an arena that he has no idea how to play in. And I'm not surprised that I saw that hostage video, because when accountants get freaked out, we tend to, our person, I mean, I'm not like this, but my industry generally wants to just sort of placate and move on and get, go on to the next thing, whatever that is. Unfortunately, you can't do that with these people. If we go a year in advance of when we've got to look at how he's doing 2 year, previously, is that, I mean, this stock has hovered anywhere from around, I don't know what, 180s, give or take. We've had the last time we had a dip like this.
I think you can safely say that even during this whole crisis, they've managed to keep their stock price pretty.
I don't know, look, man.
Compared to others, I would say maybe.
Well, I don't know, because here's the thing. If you look at October, we were at 175, and so there's a trend that's happening, and what that trend is that it slides and then it kind of gets better. It slides, kind of gets better. Slides, kind of gets better. Slides, kind of get better. This is not the history. This last 6 months isn't, even though you might say, well, what's the difference between $130 and 145, 146, $50? You're talking about tens of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, that looks like a graph of somebody or some groups of parties that are actually trying to increase their numerical value of shares as opposed to actually their value.
So the difference with I don't know if Cameron would disagree with me, Stephanie, because what I'm talking about is that this is a political public PR, public relations war, is what this is. This is a PR, public relations war, and this is very different. And if he had known what he was doing, he wouldn't have made the moves that he's made. Now,
the other part to think of is that Disney Studios and Disney Parks are very divorced.
That's right.
They're not the same industry. Like when you see that video of like the person that says I'm a cast member, that's a person that works at the parks. They're not in the studio at all. They have no clue how anything runs over there, and they're not going to unless they quit and then somehow have the education and skills required that would have them transfer over to the studio side of things. But it would be a cold quitting from the parks and then applying to the studio. There's no overlap over there. Chapek is kind of like that rare exception where for some reason this guy in administration for the parks is being brought over to administer the studio. So he's had to learn how the studio does things on top of everything else that they're doing with their streaming platform, whatever Iger has been shepherding him through. And I think because of that reason, that's why Iger was able to be given the latitude to stay around for another year and a half, because here's a guy that's from the parks that has no clue how the studio system works, and he has to be acclimated. And I think Iger took way more time than he actually needed to in order for Chapek to be acclimated, because I think Chapek was able to learn pretty quick.
Yep. That being said, I think Chapek's going to have to deploy all of his Machiavellian skills, but he now needs to apply them externally and not internally. He's a survivor, and he's killed off a lot of people on his ascent on the way up. Well, he needs to take all those lessons and that part of him. He needs to make the strategic retreat, and he needs to come back, and he needs to clean house. And here's the thing that he's got on his side. Right now, regardless of the bad press of the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, regardless of the bad press of this politics, the parks are banging out cash left and right. I mean, the ships are at sea again, and these parks are ships on the ocean banging out cash. And
they're starting to pull in revenue again.
Exactly. So just like he had a very good stock report on the last quarter, Chapek's going to have a great one coming out. My hope is that he survives and thrives. And he might just have to let this thing die on the vine a little bit. Now, that's my professional analysis. We don't give financial advice here at Midnight's Hedge or any of the channels. This is just personal analysis. But what I would like to see him do is scare the shit out of everybody that's a stakeholder in this thing, and this thing get fixed, and that give him the license he needs to clean house. Unfortunately, he's dealing with a house that's like 100-year-old house that's got a termite infestation of woke, and all these termites need to be, basically we got to fumigate the whole fucking house of mouse, because it's fucking dirty. Me personally,
do it quick, because again, what is the biggest traffic season for Disneyland and Disney World is between November and the first few weeks of January. So that is if they're getting like an increase because everything's kind of going back to normal with their cruise ships and their parks and all that stuff, they're basically know that they're going to have an influx of visitors for that winter holiday season. and they want to take advantage of that. And this publicity that's currently happening right now is threatening that thing. And if he can navigate enough of the people on the board and the people in the higher positions to say, hey, you're basically going to risk our potential like profit margin for the end of the calendar year with this crap, you've got to stop, because the last thing we can afford right now is to have all of our cruise ships operational, our parks fully open, and people not wanting to come here because of some sort of political perspective.
I mean, really, that's all he can do, and that's why I was talking about the last 6 to 4 months, because that's when he can basically start enlisting certain orders and things that will push these people to the edge to where they maybe they will try to put another protest out there again and be like, all right, good, fine. Because then it starts giving him more than enough grounds to just fucking fire these individuals, or maybe they'll just do him a favor and leave.
He absolutely has the ability to get this done. The whatever we're seeing out in the public is not, in my opinion, and I don't know this 100%. I mean, I don't know this. I'm just sort of conjecturing. The moves that he's had to make in order to get CEO are by far more 3D chess oriented than anything that we see going on right now in the public. He should be able to win this thing. He's just got to act deliberately, act quickly, and deploy the skills that he's already built up into his ascent. He's just got to project them out and handle it from a PR standpoint. I believe that, he's he may look like a weak little bitch on that hostage video, but that's like, video of the moment. Overall, this is a Machiavellian guy, and he can win this, but it's exactly what script said. He's got to move deliberately, and he's got to move swiftly.
And he's probably going to be spending the next few months, if he hasn't already, looking at every single corporate contract that has a golden parachute and thinking, how can I get rid of these people without having to pay out this parachute?
Or navigate around them, yeah.
How low does the stock have to go for them to actually freak out?
To be worried?
Yeah,
$13 a share. That's usually the sweet spot.
$13. And what's the number they're at a share now?
$138 or something like that.
$138. Okay, so 13. Okay.
Like they have to go to
basically got a little ways.
Viacom CBS levels during crisis in order
to
do that.
It's dipping enough, and there's certain things happening in certain areas to where it is affecting the business. And I think
absolutely.
So but moving on from there, Nephilim says Heath Ledger can do no wrong. Joker equals #1 anti-hero. Well, I don't know about the Joker being an anti-hero.
Definitely not. I mean, he had a name of the Joker, but he wasn't very Joker-y. He was fun villain to watch. Just he wasn't a Joker. Like, no jokes.
He was a nihilist.
His laugh wasn't catchy. His laugh wasn't catchy. And the other part too, a big no-no when it comes to writing and story, is that you never have things happen and then have your other characters say that the bad guy did it when the bad guy didn't. Like poisoning with the acid, the commissioner's alcohol. There's no way the Joker could get in there and do that, but someone did it probably for him, which makes it be like, well, why couldn't any mob boss do that? In which case you circumvent the actual need for a Joker. Like, if you're going to do a character that has a gimmick, you have to make sure that gimmick is so specific to them that they're the only ones that could have done the crime, and it explains why they are escalating the stakes of the actual film. And unfortunately, the Joker's presence in The Dark Knight doesn't actually do that, because, again, Christopher Nolan really wanted to do a Heat take on Batman for that one, and unfortunately, it kind of sacrifices some of the potential we could have had for some really iconic Joker crimes, as opposed to like the end one where it's like, the two fairies going against each other. But aside from that, like it's not to diminish the creepy transformative performance that Heath Ledger gave us, because that was something crazy to watch. But unfortunately, again, he wasn't really. I think if you actually got something like a plot like what we saw in any episode of the animated series, or what Jack Nicholson did in Batman, I think Heath Ledger could have knocked that out of the park and really done something kind of shocking for an audience, if they wanted to go in that more fantastical route. But again, one of the curses to superhero films is trying to make it more to real world as opposed to selling us on the world that we're seeing.
Right. And Mr. Tickle Trunk says, I get all my puppies from Tom. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a mill or nothing like that. where we pump out rabbit
Puppy
chickens
videos,
by the
maybe?
dozens. No, I know he's talking about the our puppy videos. Yes, of course. But on that note, Mr. Tickle Trunk has been a member for 10 months at the minimum effort puppy level. Thank you so much for that milestone. And Captain Trek has also been a member for a year at the minimum effort puppy level. Thank you for that as well, Captain Trek. That is much appreciated. And then getting back into the super chats here, we got Professor Gray, who says, what I'm getting that is movies are boned for a decade. Maybe. Hopefully we're on the other end of it now. I'm thinking like next 3 to 5 years, but
I'm still pretty sure that 2024 is when we're going to see the significant change.
I think
Because
you're about
part
right,
of me
hopefully.
thinks that the way that Hollywood's been responding to a couple of things that have happened over the past few months might very much be the start of your theory of the last re. Like, I think the start of that screen has already occurred right now, and we're just waiting for that to pitter out, and then once it pitters out, that's when we're going to see the change.
I think this Disney thing was a big part of it. I think you're right. And I kind of noticed that with, now's the time people are starting to speak up, and you had the Will Smith thing happen right before it, which kind of set a lot of this shit in motion and showed a lot of people
and force people to make a choice. That's the other part to it.
Well, not just that, some of the people made a bad choice the first night, and then they had to backtrack.
Yep. And then the other part too is the fact that a lot of people are outraged that, which was what expected, that there actually isn't no legit punishment to Will Smith for his actions. I mean, him being banned from the Academy, he still gets nominated. He can still win awards. You're basically
actually
saying,
I think that's the new thing, is he for the next 10 years he cannot.
No,
he actually left the I'll have to reread.
He can't be at the show for the next.
He cannot be at the event, but he can go. But the event's not as important as the after parties, because that's where the deals are made.
Well, since he left, though, can he even be nominated?
Yes, he can.
Okay, I wasn't
sure. He just doesn't. He just doesn't get any of the Academy privileges of voting, but he still gets his screeners because he's part of the SAG-AFTRA. He still gets to go to any after party he wants to, because that's part of the deal. There's no real punishment there, aside from the fact that it's like, oh, I don't have to like schmooze to the crowd beforehand. I don't have to sit in an auditorium or a theater for 3.5, 4 hours before I get to go start drinking at the after parties. Like, he's basically just been given a get out of jail free pass with regards to the Academy Awards for a person that's in his position, as opposed to, like, say, an up and coming actor who desperately would love to go to the Academy Awards. He's far enough along where he's like, I've got my trophy. I've been nominated 3 times. I won once, and I can still be nominated for the rest of my career. And I just don't have to go and collect there. Someone else can pick it up for me. I can just sit back, relax, and be at an industry party making deals while the ceremony is going on and getting wasted without having any consequences of that. And on top of that, at that after party, he can hit whoever the heck he wants, and nobody's really going to know about it because it won't be broadcast on international television. So yeah, where's the loss for Will Smith?
No, I guess I read it wrong. I thought he couldn't be nominated or win for the next 2 years. My bad.
Nope.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Toxic Man Flu says minimum effort super chat. Well, thank you for that. The minimum effort is appreciated. And then we got a pair from Nephilim here who says, or Nephilim, am I saying it right? I love the Christendom that Zach outputs in films. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or you really actually.
I hope it's sarcastic, because it's, I mean, I'm not very religious, but one of my sister's best friends is, and she's hardcore Christian, and she's like, Zach needs to read the Bible.
I was gonna say somebody, I don't know who, so I can't take credit myself for it, or would I really want to, but somebody at one point, I can't remember, said it, but basically they said that he has a cursory knowledge of about like the age of a 15-year-old of the Bible. Or an understanding of the about 15-year-old.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. He's got
with all his Jesus allegory stuff. Somebody, I can't remember who it was, if it was a critic.
It's like the casual cursory knowledge of what a 15-year-old would have of religion after
what they would get from the Bible. Yeah.
From one stint in church and what they would peruse over the Bible.
Just get the violent shit, and that's about it.
He's got the cursory knowledge of someone who uses pages from the Bible to roll their joints. That's what he's got.
Oh,
whoa!
Yeah, but that would mean he'd have to be cool.
Wow, welcome back, Script Doctor. That's my man. That's my man, Script Doctor.
And the film brings up another good point here. Zaslav got rid of his wokester execs. Disney went. Yeah, that's a move that I think is going to have to be paid attention to.
I loved his statement about that. It's like, yeah, we got rid of them, but the positions are still there. We'll fill them at a later date. It's like, no, he's not going to.
Well, supposedly he already has his own people that kind of cover that kind of shit over at Discovery is what I was told, but they actually serve other purposes too, from what I've heard. So they're there in like they basically in his and this is just my interpretation of what I was told. Basically, yes, he has similar people in similar roles there, but they're literally just place fillers when it comes to that title. Like they don't actually do that. They have another job altogether.
They have another job. They have multiple titles, but they mostly just occupy the thing that's real work and not the
exactly. Yes, they're there just to fill the quota for the fucking paperwork. but they actually have a totally different purpose for being there that has nothing to do with that other thing. Is my point. Yes.
No, like my understanding is what Zaslav found is that he found people that had the traits that qualify for those positions, but he's like, they also have valuable skills in what he actually needs.
However you want to put it.
I'll just say, okay, so I need a head of this and a head of that. I need a head of production development who is also going to operate as the head of diversity and inclusion, but 99% of their job is just development because that's where their skill set lies, but they have certain traits that allows them to pass the litmus test for the diversity and inclusion part so that people would leave them alone. I'm like, that's kind of how you have to play with it.
Yeah, however you want to put it, that's the basics. I'm gathering is that yes, they're actually useful in other ways. The diversity aspect is just on paper.
Oh, so it's like me. I'm here to help the ESG score, but I also know how to produce too.
Something like that.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Sure.
Oh, Team Zaslav.
But yeah, I think Zaslav's moves are gonna be something that the rest of the industry are going to pay attention to.
Well, I think in his first 100 days, he's going to get quite a shock as to what direction he's going to have to go. And I think, Warner Brothers and Discovery are going to be very different. The real change is going to happen more so next year. And the other part too is like, even though Discovery has a bit more of the controlling interest with Warner Brothers, AT&T still has quite a prominent voice in what they want to do. And scuttlebutt is that Zaslav is working closely with them so that they can up their market share of AT&T as a service provider. So it's all predicated on if Zaslav makes the right decisions to sort of galvanize Warner Brothers, that's going to benefit AT&T with regards to being able to sell more services to their potential client. So that's what there's a nice quid pro quo going here with this thing. And it feels like this was AT&T's plan all along, was to just get hold of Warner Media, figure out what's going on, see what the grounds are, and then get someone else in who can really navigate.
It's funny you say that. I was thinking that the other day too, but it's like, yeah, it wasn't almost, but it almost feels like it was.
It almost feels that way because it's like it's almost too perfect at this moment right now that you take the person who basically built a streaming service and a sub network from almost nothing into this big, huge, needed platform from your audience. And it's like, okay, now we're giving you the keys. You had the keys to the Volvo. Now we're giving you the keys to the Cadillac. Make sure you treat it just as well as you did the Volvo, and we'll all win as a result.
Yeah, I think you're right. Blue-Eyed Roof Korean, the based is in the house. It says, how censored important will the Q2 earnings be? Mike, you were kind of alluding to this earlier a little bit.
Well, they're vital. That's what I was trying to say is that, if we have a situation where Chapek's stewardship is going to show that the company is on track with earnings, well, the stock price will reflect that strength, and it will give his stewardship and leadership some validity and some power. Now, in the case of here's what we know with Iger. Everybody, it is well established and well known. When Iger left, it is essentially he took this thing, he ran up a bunch of credit cards and walked out the fucking door. Literally. Ran up credit cards, But it is no different than this is the example. I'm going to go overpay for Fox here. I'm going to go buy Marvel there. I'm going to go buy Muppets there. I'm going to go buy some of this over
Pixar.
here. Yeah, Pixar. I'm going to go buy. So
Star
basically,
Wars.
it's like, imagine this: Disney, the husband, has this wife and went out and bought a Fendi bag, a Chanel bag, and overpaid for all that shit. Maxed out the American Express Black Card, and then there was Mexican Iron Man unable to pay it off for 6 months. Oh, wait a minute, hold on, I crossed into a personal story.
Well, it's not so much 6 months; it's more like 16 years. Because I miss the days of Eisner, where he's like, "Let's just make a sequel to everything."
Right, exactly. So what happened?
As bad as that was, you're right.
And then
it was bad, but it made money.
and then Iger walks out the door, leaves Chapek holding the bag, and keeps showing up, getting in the way, like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on? Hey,
I'm here for alimony."
Yeah, hey, I'm here for alimony.
No, actually, this is actually the real analogy for what you just said, Mike. It would be like if your ex ran up all your credit cards to the limit.
Yeah, that's what Amalia did.
And then you turn around and you gave the bills to me and said, "Here you go. You got to deal with this." That's the equivalent. Because Chapek didn't run these bills up.
Yeah, you're right.
Nope.
These aren't it wasn't his wife. He didn't marry this shit.
Yeah.
He just got married into family now. He's got to deal with it. And then not only that, the ex-husband was hanging around for 2 fucking years.
Yep.
Well, think of it this way: it's like Disney is the rich billionaire who's on his deathbed, who's marrying the young trophy wife, and the first trophy wife was Iger, who just ran up the credit card, and then she left, and now Chapek is the new trophy wife, who's like, "I got to figure out how to pay this off, or else I'm gonna have nothing when this old guy croaks," and that's the situation that he's stuck in. Like, and Disney's on essential life support socially right now, with that, and who knows what's going to happen with how they respond to the treatment that they're getting from certain states with some certain leeways and tax incentives. So if that changes, which Chapek and much of Disney is hoping won't change, but if that does change, that will probably be the sounding flare where Chapek can say, "Okay, we've lost the best thing that we could possibly have right now because of this group of people. It's hatchet time."
Yeah, no, I agree with you there too, because that's like, you can protest all you want from both ends. I think the straw that's going to break the camel's back is Disney cannot afford to lose what they have right now in Florida. They can't. They just can't. And that's not worth about 71 employees that walked out. They're just going to be like, "Well, adios, mi amigos," right? Like, too bad, so sad it didn't work out. But we're not going to go along with your fucking bullshit because it's going to cost us a lot more than what it's worth. I've seen a lot more companies that have fired a lot more people for a lot less. So
Me too.
that's what I'm saying. So like, that's where I'm kind of stunned more than anything on this whole thing is like, why didn't you just fucking fire them all? Other than the political aspect, I get it, but I mean, it's like, I would. I
think it's because whatever the contracts that they've been hired under are probably really lucrative for early termination.
Probably to a point, but I'm sure there's some loophole they can find. But you're probably right.
There's usually a loophole with like any actions that are financial detriment to the company.
I would call this a financial detriment to the company.
I would call this too, but the thing is, like, again, that can be debated in
I think the stock price proves that, doesn't it?
It's one indication, but you have to find a direct correlation to that. So that's the other part too, right? So I would say he's got a shot. So let's say, theoretically speaking, Chapek identifies all the players that he believes are causing the financial ruin of Disney, and he eliminates them. And in the next quarter, we get a huge rebound of stock revenue and money coming in, and basically everybody's happy with the parks and with the studios. If those terminated employees then file like a legal claim saying they were wrongfully terminated or whatever, because of the success of Disney as a result of their termination, would completely circumvent their claim, saying that yes, we were actually the reason that they basically argue against them being the reason that the company was failing. It's like basically admitting guilt. But that only happens if there is a profitable resurgence. Like for instance, if you're in any small business, you have this one employee that just keeps breaking products so it can't be sold, and then all of a sudden you terminate them because you say you're breaking product, and then that next month no product is broken, so then it's all sold, and then you have this huge increase in profit, but they say you terminated me wrongfully. Well, then you've got evidence saying, well, no, we
Right.
didn't, because we've just made a whole bunch of money that we wouldn't have made because the guy that we know was breaking product is gone. Or at least the person that we suspected was breaking product, and we couldn't 100% prove it, but we had enough reasonable cause to dismiss them, and all of a sudden that problem disappeared with him or her. Then yeah, you basically got a great legal case saying, yep, you don't have ground to stand on. They did the right thing. They did everything they could within the contract of your employment, and bye-bye. But that's a really hard thing to do, like especially with the number of people that they have in Disney, and each case would have to be individually reviewed by legal teams as a result if they made an instant claim of wrongful termination.
No, I get what you're saying. But on that note, I know we're getting long in the tooth here, and we love having you back, Script, and that's one of the reasons why we've gone a little longer to get to have you back and get your take on some of this stuff, because you haven't been able to in the last week or so. But we got a super chat here, and we also have a member chat from Etienne Falidoro, who says Sonic 2 was awesome, and I highly recommend it. I miss going to a movie that actually and actually enjoying it for what it is. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, Etienne, and I'm glad you got the chance to enjoy it. And then Blue Eyed Roof, the Korean the Base, says, I recall a non-covenant rep complained on a call. He's talking about the last meeting. I think that was kind of the whole point of his question, is how public, or how like the one where they allow certain people to call in. Now, Mike, those were completely different than the actual quarter calls, right? Or is that because that's a shareholder call thing, right?
Well, there's two types of calls that happen. There's the shareholder. There's the shareholder calls, the shareholder meetings, and then there's the quarterly report, which you do have shareholder investment funds calling in. But regardless of that, after what happened a year ago, they're trying to carefully select who gets picked and what questions are asked in advance, so that when they call on people, they're calling on people that they hopefully know what they're going to ask and what they're going to say. Now, obviously, some investment funds have a little bit more latitude than others because they're closer to the board, they're closer to the executive committee. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. If you want to have a voice in Disney, you have to have several thousand shares of stock.
I was going to say, yeah, I think they shut it off to the lower tier, whatever you want to call it.
Sadly, from Disney's perspective, if you only own one piece of stock of Disney, you are considered completely irrelevant to them.
Yeah. Woo! Pretty much. But with that, I know Nick's got his show coming up here, so we're going to wrap things up so we can get people over there. If you got the link for that, Nick, you can share that in the thing there, and we can get people heading over there. I want to hop in there. Hopefully I can, because one of my favorite films, The Big Lebowski, it's a great fucking movie.
And one that did well in the European area, too.
Yeah. What's Mike rubbing? I'm not talking about the mic that's on the stream. I'm talking about this Mike who actually has his RoboCop 4K disc. Jerk.
Oh, nice.
Oh, some people got theirs, but I kept getting emails and I got pissed and I called out Arrow Online and they're like telling me, oh, we don't even have the same dealer base. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like this whole thing just doesn't make sense. It's like, how come, Amazon and Best Buy have their, fuck you. I'm mad. And then today I get one of the new 4K Frankenstein in the mail, and I swear it should have had a slip cover, but anyway, that's an Arrow release. That's why I brought it up. Oh, I see that, Nick. I'm gonna have to make sure I watch that one because
now you have a week. Now you know you had now
back up the speed. I won't spoil it for anybody, but yes. Okay, thank you for that.
I do that by timing on purpose.
And are Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck getting back together? Aren't they getting married again? Isn't that the whole news?
Well, they're engaged again. They didn't get married the first time.
Oh, they didn't get married before. Okay,
I don't think they got married the first time. I know they got.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I don't think they did. You're right. Yeah, because he did marry Jennifer Garner, though. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the good news for him is, it doesn't have to worry about calling out the wrong name. Bad news for Jennifer Lopez is that her movie "Marry Me Today" did not resonate well on its a day and date release. I think it had. No, I don't think anyone saw that or even really heard about it.
I don't remember it now. Okay, yours didn't have a slip cover either. Maybe it didn't have one. I'll have to double check on that. But it's odd for Arrow not to, at least with the original release. Just feel so naked without it. All right,
Oh.
kids, let's wrap it up. Head on over to Nick Weiser's channel. I shared the link in the chat there. I'll share it again. I'm going to talk.
By the way, Nick, you do a really good job with those movie shows that you
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I never.
It's a blessed doing.
You
I hate
really,
missing them.
you really do a really great job. You and everybody that shows up do a really fantastic job.
Thank you. It's a fun show, and the best part about it all started as an accident that was supposed to be for a month, and now here we are at episode 40.
Sweet.
So it feels good to say that. So yeah, come on over, Midnight's Edge. We're gonna be talking the Big Lebowski.
That's just like your opinion, man.
You just had to go.
Jesus.
He pissed on your fucking rug, dude.
Dude.
It really brought the room together.
It did. It really did tie the room
Oh
together.
God, here we go.
Yeah.
And with that,
Mikey must not have liked that movie.
no, I liked it, but I'm just like, I mean, if we're gonna start there, we could go for an hour. We could.
Oh,
really,
we will.
The whole movie is a bunch of unbelievable quote scenes of quotes.
Mark it. You were over the line. Smokey, you were over the line. This is not non. There are rules.
Hey, Deuterino, the dude. There's all sorts of dudes, man. All sorts.
He's the man. Oh man, I can't. I love that movie. I got that on 4K too.
You know, it's funny because when I first saw the movie, I for those who don't catch it, but I remember I learned of the wrestler Val Venus first, and he used to always say the Big Valbowski, and then I learned years later on he got from the Big Lebowski. I'm like, oh, I get it, because Val Venus kind of had like a little bit of a similarity to Jeff Bridges too. He was obviously a bit more shredded.
Well, the Big Lebowski is actually based on a real guy too. Or
Yes,
the dude.
yes,
I mean,
he
the
is.
dude
Yeah,
is.
He's based on an actual dude. Yes, it's a true story. No, we'll be talking about that. It's gonna be great. So come on over, guys.
Yes,
It's gonna be fun.
I can't believe you pulled a fucking piece, man.
Bro, does it look like I'm married?
Call the
Bullet
cops right
seat
now.
sitting up.
And with that,
Yeah. And with that,
Well,